Chapter 120. The news of the annihilation of the Yao village spread far and wide. It even caused quite a stir in the entire East Yen. One reason was that Yao Nanxian had already caused quite a stir when he prepared to wash his hands in the golden basin. Now, his entire family was annihilated during his own washing ceremony. This series of events left those who knew of it unable to react in time. Moreover, the annihilation of the Yao village allowed the Blue Dragon Society to reappear in the eyes of the people of the East Yen. When the Heavenly Sin branch was annihilated, the Blue Dragon Society almost disappeared from the East Yen. Even though the Blue Dragon Society later sent a new Heavenly Sin branch leader, the Blue Dragon Society only fought on a small scale most of the time and did not cause too much of a stir. The annihilation of the Yao village was the first time the Blue Dragon Society took action on a large scale. It also made everyone realize that there was another vicious snake in the East Yen martial arts world. At the same time, the names of the assassins of the Blue Dragon Society who participated in the annihilation also spread. However, the one in the limelight was Chu Xiu. Actually, based on their battle records, Tangya and Yan Bugue had killed more people than Chu Xiu. The two of them had fought against two opponents at the physical invulnerability realm at the same time, and had easily dealt with two opponents at the physical invulnerability realm. Especially Tangya, Yao Nanxian had died at his hands. However, Chu Xiu was a person on the Longhu leaderboard. Previously, there were people who said that it was unfair for Chu Xiu to be ranked 18th on the leaderboard and that Wind-Sweeping Tower must have made some secret deal to put him on the leaderboard. However, now that Chu Xiu showed his strength and killed Zen Master Heng Shan, a veteran physical invulnerability expert, in front of everyone, no one said that there was something wrong with the Wind-Sweeping Tower's leaderboard anymore. At this time, in a mountain forest at the border of Mount Tai County and Forest County, countless military camps were located on the mountainside. Their flags fluttered in the wind. This small mountain was the camp of the Mountain Garrison Army. After Xiang Weiyang returned from Yao Clan village, he went straight back to the barracks. Along the way, when the soldiers saw him, they would respectfully greet him and call him Commandant Xiang. The mountain-subduing army had just begun to guard the east of Yen. General Yin Luohua even requested that they come to the mountain forest to train every day. In the end, they simply moved the entire military camp to the mountain. Xiang Weiyang opened the main tent and walked in. There was only a middle-aged man wearing black tiger armor inside, reading a book. The middle-aged man looked very refined and had a gentle temperament. If it weren't for the armor he was wearing, one would think that he was just a scholar and not a murderous general. This person was the mountain-subduing army's general, Roaring Tiger Yin Luohua. Although Yin Luohua looked like a Confucian scholar, he was actually a vicious and merciless person. Just look at his nickname, Tiger Tiger. What was poison? Poison was a legendary poisonous bird. Every feather on its body was extremely poisonous. Yin Luohua was called Tiger Tiger because he was vicious and decisive. He was like a ferocious tiger coming down the mountain, unstoppable. With these two characteristics combined, Yin Luohua was very famous in the Northern Yen army. Seeing Xiang Weiyang come in, Yin Luohua asked, "Is the matter with Yao Clan village over?" Xiang Weiyang chuckled, "It's over. That Yao Nanxian died a miserable death." Yin Luohua was surprised. Yao Nanxian died? What happened? After Xiang Weiyang told him everything, Yin Luohua pondered for a while and finally said in a deep voice, "A storm is brewing. The east of Yen, or should I say the northern Yen pugilistic world, is not going to be peaceful soon." Xiang Weiyang hesitated. "General, it can't be, right? The assassins of the Blue Dragon Society have killed more than one family over the years. With the strength of a Heavenly Sin branch, it shouldn't be able to affect the entire East Yen pugilistic world." Yin Luohua shook his head. "This time, the Heavenly Sin branch is just a prelude. It means that the Heavenly Sin branch that was destroyed by the big sects 3 years ago has once again appeared in the world. 3 years ago, the Heavenly Sin branch was destroyed not because they killed someone they shouldn't have, but because they took something they shouldn't have. That's why the entire Heavenly Sin branch was killed. In fact, these big sects are a bit sensitive. Not only did they take back the things they shouldn't have, but they even joined forces to destroy a Blue Dragon Society branch. One has to know that the entire Blue Dragon Society only has 36 Heavenly Dipper branches. The current leader of the Blue Dragon Society, Crescent Green Dragon, Bu Tiannan, is famous for his bad temper. His mood is unpredictable, and he's basically a madman. What they did was equivalent to slapping him in the face several times. How could he not fight them to the death? I didn't see that battle either. Anyway, the aftermath of that year hasn't dissipated yet. In the end, the Blue Dragon Society sent such a troublemaker, the Heavenly Sin branch leader. If I'm not wrong, he won't be able to endure it for long and will jump out to cause trouble. Now that I look at it, it seems like I'm right. Xiang Weiyang said in surprise, "Do you know the current Heavenly Sin branch leader of the Blue Dragon Society?" "Kind of. We've had some dealings." Yin Luohua said in a deep voice, "This Heavenly Sin branch leader used to be an assassin at the headquarters of the Blue Dragon Society. He's very strong, and even I don't have the confidence to win against him. However, as a person, I can only say that he has great ambitions but little talent. He's a bit too arrogant." Back then, when the Heavenly Sin branch was completely wiped out, the most suitable thing to do was to calmly develop. However, this person doesn't have a patient personality. With his strength, if the Heavenly Sin branch starts to improve, he'll definitely make some big moves. Now that you've seen it, accepting the mission from the Yao clan is the first step." Xiang Weiyang laughed coldly and said, "In any case, no matter what, let them kill. This group of people from the pugilistic world is killing here. Isn't it better for us to just watch from the sidelines?" Yin Luohua said in a deep voice, "That's what I thought before. However, with the current situation of the Imperial Court, I'm afraid we can't just watch from the sidelines. No matter what, we have to participate." Xiang Weiyang said in surprise, "What's the Imperial Court doing?" Yin Luohua looked at Xiang Weiyang and suddenly said in a low voice, "You should know the situation of our northern Yen in the past. Not only was we suppressed by Eastern Qi, but we were also suppressed by West Chu. Fortunately, the current emperor is a great strategist, and he united the northern Yen martial world to eliminate the 36 northern bandits, and even suppress Eastern Qi. However, in recent years, these people from the pugilistic world have become more and more outrageous. They've caused too much trouble. Even in the northern floating snow city, the words of our northern Yen imperial court are not as effective as the words of the northern floating snow city. It doesn't matter if they claim to be the meritorious subjects of Yen kingdom, or if it's purely for their own benefit, we, northern Yen, have to intervene. Otherwise, who in this world would take the imperial court seriously?" Xiang Weiyang's heart trembled when he heard this, and he said, "General, is this the order of His Majesty?" Yin Luohua said faintly, "To be precise, this is the order of the imperial court, but you don't have to be nervous. Right now, the entire northern Yen pugilistic world is still peaceful, and it's not the time to make a move yet. It's just that a storm is brewing, and the rain hasn't fallen yet. You should cultivate to the realm of 3 flowers at one's prominence as soon as possible. After I promote you to Deputy General, I will go to the capital. I don't know who the new general of the Mountain Subduing Army will be, but with your qualifications in the Mountain Subduing Army, whoever takes over the Mountain Subduing Army will use you." Xiang Weiyang said in surprise, "General, you're going to be transferred back to the capital?" Yin Luohua nodded and said, "I'm about to condense the true martial elixir and step into the 3rd realm of spirit condensation. When the time comes, I will probably go to the 5 armies of the state as a deputy general." The real elites of the Yen kingdom were all in the 5 armies of the state. Although Yin Luohua was now the general of the Mountain Subduing Army, being promoted to deputy general seemed to lower his status, but it was actually a promotion. Xiang Weiyang's eyes showed a touch of joy. He cupped his hands and said, "Congratulations, General." He was Yin Luohua's confidant. Now that his master's strength had gone a step further, he naturally felt honored. Yin Luohua patted him on the shoulder and said, "Now that you have the merit, the only thing you lack is strength. The sooner you reach the realm of 3 flowers and 5 qi, the better I can find a position for you in the 5 armies of the state." "Thank you, General." Inside the Spirit Sword sect, a middle-aged man in his 40s, dressed in blue with a long sword across his knees, sat cross-legged in front of a waterfall, listening to a martial artist's report about the Yao family village. This person was the sect leader of the Spirit Sword sect, Frost Moon Sword Lin Feiyu. After listening to the disciple's report, Lin Feiyu just nodded and closed his eyes. Seeing that the sect leader didn't speak, the disciple behind him hesitated for a long time before saying, "Sect leader, how should we deal with this matter?" Lin Feiyu opened his eyes and asked, "Why should we deal with it?" "Huh?" That disciple subconsciously said, "Elder Yao is, after all, an elder of our Spirit Sword sect. Moreover, 3 of our physical invulnerability martial uncles died, how could our Spirit Sword sect not respond?" Lin Feiyu took a deep look at that disciple, and then lightly said, "Remember, from the moment Yao Nanxian decided to retire from Jianghu, he was no longer a member of our Spirit Sword sect. As for those 3 idiots, they fought to the death for a guy who was about to retire from Jianghu, and finally lost their lives in the Yao family village. Do you want our Spirit Sword sect to avenge them? Moreover, even if our Spirit Sword sect wants to avenge them, who should we look for? Who hired the Blue Dragon Society to kill Yao Nanxian? Even Yao Nanxian himself didn't know. Look for the Blue Dragon Society for revenge? Everyone knows that the Blue Dragon Society is just a sword in someone else's hand. Moreover, the Blue Dragon Society's whereabouts are hidden, and the strength of the Heavenly Sin Division is stronger than our Spirit Sword sect. How could we go to the Blue Dragon Society's door to look for trouble? From now on, this matter is over. I don't want to hear anyone in the sect discussing this matter, do you understand?" Upon hearing this, that disciple's heart suddenly turned cold and he nodded again and again. Only then did he realize that there seemed to be a rumor in the sect that when Elder Yao was young, he seemed to have suppressed the sect leader. Therefore, when the sect leader took the position, Elder Yao no longer held any power. In the end, he even had to retire from Jianghu. Previously, he thought that this was just a rumor, but now, it seemed like it was true. Chapter 121. The northern Yan country was a large wasteland. Its area was even larger than 7 or 8 counties. However, because of its desolate land and harsh climate, it was sparsely populated. Thus, the northern Yan imperial court did not set up a county there. However, in this slightly desolate northern Yan country, there were several great forces that were listed in the Jianghu song by wind-sweeping building. For example, in the northernmost part of the northern Yan country, the area where the snow never melted, belonged to the northern floating snow city. Although there was not much snow in the northwest, the weather was dry and desolate. A giant straight peak stood in the northwest wasteland. This was the Great Light Peak, where the Great Light Temple of the Northern Buddhist sect was located. Under the jurisdiction of the Great Light Temple were the 3 great meditation halls and 6 great martial academies, all of which were located above the Great Light Temple. At this time, in the Jianghu Martial Academy, one of the 6 great martial academies, a 40-years-old tall monk looked at the information written on the paper. His eyes showed a touch of anger. After throwing the letter, the monk was about to go out, but he was stopped by an old monk in the meditation room. "Mingchen, where are you going?" Mingchen coldly said, "Master, when senior brother Heng Shan was helping Spirit Sword sect's abbot Yao Nanxian wash his hands in the Golden Basin ceremony, he was brutally killed by those villains of the Azure Dragon Society. How could I just ignore it?" In the entire northern Yan country, almost all of the Buddhist temples respected the Great Light Temple. Therefore, in terms of seniority, Zen Master Heng Shan and this Mingchen were of the same generation. Because Zen Master Heng Shan was older, he was respectfully called senior brother by Mingchen. Moreover, the relationship between these two people was indeed good, although there was a big gap between their identities. One was the martial monk instructor of the Jianghu martial school, responsible for teaching the young monks of the Jianghu martial school, while the other was the abbot of a small northern Yen temple. In the past, Zen Master Heng Shan was invited to the Great Light Temple to discuss Zen. Of course, with his identity and Buddhist cultivation, he was not qualified to discuss Zen with the important people of the Great Light Temple. The ones who received him were the disciples of the 3 great meditation halls and the 6 great martial academies. At that time, the one who received Zen Master Heng Shan was this Mingchen. It was also because of that time that the two of them became good friends. Although the two of them were dozens of years apart, they had become good friends despite the difference in age. When Mingchen left the Great Light Temple, he would often visit the Jianghu Temple. For the past 2 years, he had been in seclusion in the Great Light Temple. He did not expect that the moment he came out of seclusion, he would receive news of Zen Master Heng Shan's death. The old monk shook his head and said, "Once you enter the pugilistic world, you will be tainted with karma. This is Heng Shan's karma, he can't blame others. You treated Heng Shan as a good friend, and he also treated Yao Nanxian as a good friend, which is why he was killed. But the key point is that we don't even know who hired the Blue Dragon Society. Who are you going to take revenge on?" Mingchen said coldly, "Yao Nanxian was killed because of his own grudges. I don't care who the people who want to avenge him find. I only know that it was the Blue Dragon Society who killed senior brother Heng Shan. I naturally have to seek revenge from the Blue Dragon Society, from the blood demon Chu Xiu." The old monk shook his head and said, "Mingchen, you have reached a critical moment in cultivating the Furious Diamond Heart Sutra. Any small matter in the outside world will incite the anger in your heart. The Furious Diamond Eyes is to suppress evil and kill demons. Killing one person to save 10, this is the Diamond Heart technique, the heart of a bodhisattva. Your heart is filled with anger and murderous intent. If I ask you to kill again, I'm afraid you will be completely overwhelmed by anger. You will be filled with resentment, which will lead to the birth of a heart demon. So this time, you can't go." "But Master," the old monk said solemnly, "there are no buts. Moreover, the heavenly sin branch is very sensitive now. The abbot and the hall masters have already ordered that we are not allowed to have any conflict with the Blue Dragon Society. 3 years ago, the head of the Blue Dragon Society, Bu Tiannan, came to provoke the Great Light Temple. He fought with the hall master of the Daredevil Zen Hall, the 9 Wonders Dragon Tree, Martial Uncle Shuyun, and was forced to retreat by the abbot. However, that Bu Tiannan is crazy and temperamental. If the Blue Dragon Society really wants to fight the Great Light Temple to the death, how many disciples of the Great Light Temple will die if the assassins of the 36 Big Dipper divisions all target the Great Light Temple? The Northern Yen pugilistic world is chaotic enough. The Great Light Temple is in the Northern Light Peak and doesn't want to interfere with the chaos of the pugilistic world. We definitely can't take the initiative to cause trouble. If the Blue Dragon Society touched the disciples of the Great Light Temple, then the Great Light Temple doesn't mind killing the Heavenly Sin branch again. However, if you cause the Great Light Temple and the Blue Dragon Society to form an irreconcilable enmity because of your personal grudges, can you bear the consequences?" Mingchen broke out in a cold sweat after hearing his master's words. He was so angry just now that he didn't think too much about it. The old monk sighed and said, "All right, go back to your cultivation." Mingchen, among the disciples of the Vajra institution, your advancement in strength is not the strongest. However, you are the one who works the hardest in your daily cultivation and has the strongest willpower. When you can completely control your emotions, then your Furious Vajra Heart Sutra will be considered complete. "Yes, Master." Mingchen respectfully bowed to the old monk, but he didn't dare to bring up the matter of seeking revenge from the Blue Dragon Society again. Of course, he also suppressed this hatred in the bottom of his heart. The furious Vajra was not to kill, but to save people. However, if he couldn't even take revenge for his good friend, then his furious Vajra would be too aggrieved. Due to the destruction of the Yao village and the death of Yao Nanxian, the entire martial arts world in the east of Yen became tense. This was something that Chu Xiu and the other assassins of the Blue Dragon Society didn't notice. After the destruction of the Yao village, the reward for the mission was distributed. Chu Xiu felt that he had suffered a loss. The reward for a 6th-level mission was naturally very generous, but the problem was how many people would get a share of the reward. Even if it was according to the contribution, Chu Xiu could only be ranked above average. After all, Yen Bugui and Tangya had killed 2 physical invulnerability experts. Moreover, there were so many assassins participating in the mission. You split some, and he split some. In the end, the reward for each person wasn't much. At least, Chu Xiu had spent so much effort to kill a physical invulnerability expert, but the reward he received was less than the reward he received for completing the lowest level 5th-level mission alone. However, this battle brought many benefits to Chu Xiu. At the very least, Chu Xiu could confirm that he already had the strength to kill a physical invulnerability expert alone. Of course, the process was also more dangerous. Although Zen Master Heng Shan was already old, and his qi and blood had begun to decline, he had dominated the martial arts world in the east of Yen in his early years. He had rich combat experience, and the martial arts techniques he had mastered were also very strong. He had even forced Chu Xiu to use the second move of the 3 cuts of Avicii, which he still couldn't fully control. With Chu Xiu's current strength, if his opponent was at the level of Yu Henian, it would probably be much easier to deal with him. During this period of time, Chu Xiu didn't stay idle. He continued to accept missions, cultivate, and accept more missions. Moreover, after the Yao village incident, Chu Xiu could be said to be the most famous assassin in the Heavenly Sin branch. There were even many missions that were specifically for Chu Xiu to do. At this time, Chu Xiu finally understood what the Ghost Hand King meant when he said that assassins also needed fame. The commission for these kinds of missions that designated assassins to carry out was extremely generous. If the employer wanted to designate Chu Xiu to do it, they just needed to pay more. As long as the commission was high, even the Heavenly Sin branch leader could do it himself. Therefore, now Chu Xiu only picked those missions that were specifically designated for him to complete. Once he carried out such a mission, the reward was 30% higher than ordinary missions. During the free time of carrying out missions, Chu Xiu also went to Old Huang's place to see if there was any progress on his side. Pushing open the door of Old Huang's courtyard, a sharp cold light flashed in front of Chu Xiu's eyes. 2 flying knives directly stabbed at him at an astonishing speed. However, no matter how fast the flying knives were, they were not as fast as Chu Xiu's knife. He unsheathed the red sleeve saber in his hand and shattered the flying dagger in front of him. Old Man Huang hurriedly ran out and saw Chu Xiu in front of him. He could not help but smile awkwardly and said, "This old man did not know that official Chu had come. Please forgive me." Chu Xiu looked at the flying dagger on the ground and asked in surprise, "Did you set this up?" Old Man Huang smiled bitterly and said, "This old man is a cripple now and is already unable to set up a complete array formation. I also don't have the money to hire martial artists with superb strength to protect me. Therefore, I can only think of a way to temporarily combine the array formation with the mechanical concealed weapons. Using the power of the array formation to automatically activate the concealed weapons, it can also be considered as a small protective item. Otherwise, if I encounter bandits or something, I won't even have the strength to fight back." As he spoke, Old Huang glanced at the 2 flying knives on the ground with some heartache. The materials of these 2 flying knives had reached the 3rd transition. In the end, they were chopped in half by Chu Xiu's saber. He felt his heart ache. Chu Xiu said indifferently, "I came to look for you for no other reason. I just want to see how the restoration of the Cultivation transmission jade slip is going." Old man Huang nodded and said, "The restoration is going well. In less than a month, official Chu can come and get the item." Moreover, this old man also discovered some interesting things. This cultivation jade slip contains a Buddhist martial art. "Master Chu, you must be careful when you practice it." Old man Huang's words were really for Chu Xiu's own good. He already knew Chu Xiu's identity. Blood demon Chu Xiu, a rising star of the younger generation in the East Yen pugilistic world. He was the most famous assassin in the Heavenly Sin branch. Needless to say, he definitely cultivated demonic techniques. Everyone in the pugilistic world knew that Buddhist cultivation methods and demonic cultivation methods restrained each other. If Chu Xiu were to first cultivate demonic cultivation methods before cultivating Buddhist cultivation methods, it would be easy for something to go wrong. He might even suffer from qi deviation or something like that. Actually, Chu Xiu suffering from qi deviation had nothing to do with him. However, he was the one who restored the cultivation transmission jade slip. If Chu Xiu made a mistake in his own cultivation and thought that he had done something to the cultivation transmission jade slip while repairing it, he would deliberately harm him. Or if his own skills were not good enough, causing problems in the cultivation transmission jade slip, and in the end, he would kill him in a rage. Old man Huang would be the one who would be wronged. Therefore, Old man Huang explained the matter first. Cultivation techniques could not be cultivated casually. Don't look for me if something happens in the future. Chapter 122. When Chu Xiu heard Old man Huang say that the cultivation method in the cultivation transmission jade slip was actually a Buddhist cultivation method, he was really a little surprised. Because the cultivation techniques of the Daoist and Buddhist lineages were relatively complete, there were relatively few inheritances in the outside world. When the Zhang family was at its peak, it actually had nothing to do with Buddhism, so this jade slip should have been accidentally obtained by them. However, because of some conflict or other reasons when they separated from the family, it was finally broken into two halves, with each side holding one half. As for Old man Huang's worry that Chu Xiu would make a mistake while cultivating both the demonic and Buddhist techniques at the same time, Chu Xiu was not worried at all. In fact, Chu Xiu now belonged to the tripartite cultivation of Taoism, Buddhism, and demonic. The Xiantian skill was a Daoist secret manual. It did not have any attribute bonuses, but it was the most important, so there was no need to worry about conflicts with any techniques. Although Chu Xiu did not directly cultivate the Buddhist techniques, because of the glazed golden threads gu, his body also contained the power of Buddhism. As for the demonic techniques, Chu Xiu had many. Whether it was the Avicii Three Blades or the Heaven and Earth Merciless Yin and Yang Great Sorrow, they were all extremely powerful demonic techniques. Perhaps it was because Chu Xiu had turned these three powers into his own foundation from the beginning, and even the glazed golden threads gu was an existence that was connected to Chu Xiu's bloodline, so the conflict of powers did not happen to Chu Xiu. Naturally, Chu Xiu did not have to worry about the situation of qi deviation in the later stages. Chu Xiu said to Old man Huang faintly, "I know this. You just need to repair the jade slip. You don't have to worry about the rest." After saying that, Chu Xiu directly left, leaving Old man Huang behind, shaking his head. If it were not for Chu Xiu's generosity, he really would not be willing to cooperate with a famous killer like Chu Xiu. It was too worrying, and he had to be careful with his words, afraid of angering the other party. After nothing happened on Old man Huang's side, Chu Xiu first returned to the Blue Dragon Society. However, just as he returned to the underground palace, Ghost Hand King stopped him. "Don't accept any missions for the next few days. Lord Branch Leader wants to gather the entire Heavenly Sin branch to carry out a mission." Chu Xiu frowned. Another group mission? To be honest, Chu Xiu did not want to carry out this kind of group mission again after completing it once. The rewards were too low. However, now that he was under someone else's roof, he had no choice but to lower his head. With the personality of the Heavenly Sin Branch Master, if Chu Xiu dared to disobey his orders, the consequences could be imagined. After all, Ghost Hand King and Fire Slave had once said that if one wanted to do well in the Heavenly Sin Branch, it was enough to grasp one rule, and that was to absolutely obey the branch leader's orders. The Ghostly Hand King said, "This can be considered a group mission, but it's not a group mission issued by someone outside. Instead, the branch master wants to do something, and he needs all the assassins in the Sin Branch to cooperate. But don't worry, Lord Branch Lord is quite generous. This mission will be given to everyone according to the reward of a level 6 mission." Chu Xiu shrugged. Even if it was a level 6 mission, there would not be much. At most, it was a psychological comfort so that everyone would not work for nothing. However, Heavenly Sin Branch Leader's series of actions made Chu Xiu feel that he was a bit too impatient. Regarding information about Heavenly Sin Branch Leader, Chu Xiu had heard a little about it in the original story, but it was not very detailed. This Heavenly Sin Branch Leader might not be the strongest branch leader in the history of the Blue Dragon Society, but he had the strongest presence and was the most troublesome branch leader. Usually, the leaders of the Azure Dragon Society treated the branch of the Azure Dragon Society as a pure organization of assassins. However, the leader of the Heavenly Sin Society often led the members of the Heavenly Sin Society to stir up trouble in the Jianghu of the east of Yan Kingdom, causing quite a stir in the Jianghu. Chu Xiu had this feeling when he went on a group mission. This time, Chu Xiu was sure that Heavenly Sin Branch Leader was gradually following the original story. However, this did not matter to Chu Xiu. His strength was there, and if there were benefits in following Heavenly Sin Branch Leader, he would naturally listen to his orders. However, if it was the other way around, it was hard to say what he would do. As Chu Xiu was talking to Ghost Hand King, Tangya wandered out of nowhere. He was playing with an exquisite golden dragon tail soul-hunting dart and asked Ghost Hand King, "Ghost Hand King, do you know what Lord Branch Leader is going to do this time?" Ghost Hand King smiled bitterly and said, "Lord Branch Leader didn't tell me the specific situation. He only told me to stay here and wait for you guys to come back to inform you to stop the mission and prepare to make a move together." Tangya sighed and shook his head. "This is really troublesome. Actually, as a person, it is best to be more simple. The same goes for assassins. Our Blue Dragon Society is getting more and more complicated." Ghost Hand King frowned and said, "What do you mean?" Tangya did not answer Ghost Hand King's question, but asked Chu Xiu instead, "What do you think?" Chu Xiu just said indifferently, "In the underworld, even the simplest things will become complicated. Just get used to it." Tangya laughed and said, "Yeah, just get used to it. Unfortunately, I have never been used to this kind of thing." After saying that, Tangya walked away while humming a tune that had a hint of Sichuan flavor. Ghost Hand King looked at Chu Xiu and said, "What does he mean?" Chu Xiu patted Ghost Hand King's shoulder and said, "Don't beat around the bush. Since you already understand, why are you still asking?" After saying that, Chu Xiu also turned around and left. Ghost Hand King remained silent. He had been an assassin in the Blue Dragon Society for more than 10 years. Ghost Hand King was not an idiot. In fact, he always knew, but he was just pretending. Blue Dragon Society was a simple assassin organization. They did not participate in the disputes of the underworld. They were only a double-edged demonic sword in everyone's hands. Whoever wanted to use this sword had to use blood to nourish it. While this sword helped you kill people, it also nourished the sword's power. In fact, this was the true purpose of the Blue Dragon Society. Only by being a pure sword could they slowly grow in the endless killing of the underworld. It could even be said that as long as there was hatred and killing in the underworld, there would be value in the existence of the Blue Dragon Society. However, under the leadership of the Heavenly Sin Division leader, the current Heavenly Sin Division wasn't as pure as it used to be. The Heavenly Sin Division leader didn't want the Heavenly Sin Division to follow the old path of the Azure Dragon Society. He wanted to make something simple complicated. As for whether this matter was good or bad, even the Ghost Hand King himself couldn't tell. However, as the trusted subordinate of the Heavenly Sin Branch leader, he helped the Heavenly Sin Branch manage the people in the branch. Naturally, he couldn't speak carelessly. Even if he understood some things, he had to pretend that he didn't. 2 days later, Yan Bugui returned from his mission. The Heavenly Sin Branch leader called Chu Xiu and the other martial artists with codenames into a meeting room and explained to them the mission that the Heavenly Sin Branch had to carry out this time. Looking at the people present, the Heavenly Sin Branch leader said in a deep voice, "This time's mission is not a mission from the outside world. It is also something that I am preparing to steal. But don't worry, as long as this mission is successfully completed, your rewards will not be lacking." Among the people present, besides Yan Bugui who still had a cold expression, the others all said in unison, "We will follow the instructions of the branch leader." The Heavenly Sin Branch leader nodded. He was not dissatisfied with Yan Bugui. That guy was just like that. The Heavenly Sin Branch leader said in a deep voice, "Half a month ago, a small aristocratic family in the Linzhong Commandery, the Fong family, bought an inconspicuous secret box from a secret box auction. Inside it was a treasure, the Blood Jade Exquisite. The Blood Jade Exquisite was the treasure of the ancient Blood River sect. Legend has it that it was refined from the essence of tens of thousands of martial artists. After refining it, it could strengthen one's qi and blood. It could also transform one's own gang qi into the incomparably powerful blood-refined god gang. After obtaining the treasure, although the Fong family tried their best to prevent the news from spreading, the news of the birth of the Blood Jade Exquisite was still found out by the 2 sects around the Fong family, the Green Dawn sect and the Golden Blade sect. These 2 sects wanted the Blood Jade Exquisite, so they began to threaten the Fong family together. The Fong family could not bear it and announced that they would hand over the Blood Jade Exquisite to the northern Fluttering Snow City. They did not ask for the treasure, but only wanted to exchange for the protection of the northern Fluttering Snow City. They wanted to move the Fong family to the north, and the morgue would be the witness. At this time, the guest chamberlain of the morgue, 9 Flower Green Peak, Meng Yuanlong, had already arrived at the Fong family. There were also some experts from the surrounding sects who had gathered at the Fong family, wanting to see what the Blood Jade Exquisite looked like. Half a month later, the northern Fluttering Snow City will officially send someone to receive the Blood Jade Exquisite. We have to take advantage of the chaos and snatch the Blood Jade Exquisite while they are preparing for the official handover. Chu Xiu and the others looked at each other. If they had snatched the Blood Jade Exquisite when it first appeared, it would have been fine. But now they had to snatch the Blood Jade Exquisite from the hands of the northern Fluttering Snow City and the morgue. This was not an easy task. The guest chamberlain of the morgue, 9 Flower Green Peak, Meng Yuanlong, was a great expert in the unity of heaven and man realm. A few years ago, he was invited to the morgue by Nie Renlong out of courtesy. Nie Renlong even personally became sworn brothers with him, taking him as his sworn brother. In the Jianghu, they called each other brothers. And it was still unknown who the northern Fluttering Snow City would send, but their strength should not be weak. At this time, Chu Xiu suddenly said doubtfully, "The Fong family should be the closest to the morgue, why do they have to go to the northern Fluttering Snow City? Also, the morgue is not angry at all and is willing to be a witness. Is there a conspiracy?" When the others heard Chu Xiu's words, they also felt that something was wrong. They all looked at the Heavenly Sin Branch leader. Looking deeply at Chu Xiu, the Heavenly Sin Branch leader said indifferently, "Actually, the Fong family wanted to give this thing to the morgue, but the morgue didn't dare to accept it. The relic of the ancient demonic sect, the Blood River cult, is a good thing, but whether it is Nie Renlong or Nie Donglu, it is not suitable for them to use. They care about their reputation. And would Nie Renlong be willing to give it to the other people in the morgue?" So, this information was sold to the northern Fluttering Snow City by the morgue, but how much of the transaction was involved is unknown to others. Chapter 123. Since ancient times, the righteous and evil sects had always been at odds. The righteous sects had the reputation of being righteous, but there were also many restrictions and rules. As for the demonic martial artists, they were free and unfettered, but because they broke the rules, they were beaten up by everyone. At this point, even martial arts were divided into the righteous and demonic sections. Of course, this was pure nonsense to Chu Xiu. Those who cultivated righteous martial arts were not necessarily good people, and those who cultivated demonic arts were not necessarily bad people. In fact, martial arts were originally the path of fighting and killing. Whether it was the righteous or demonic sects, when cultivated to the end, it would be used to kill people. How could there be good or bad? Of course, this was only Chu Xiu's view. In the eyes of the majority of the people in the pugilistic world, the righteous and evil were at odds. So although the blood jade was a good item, the Morgue village didn't dare to take it. Otherwise, if Nie Renlong or his son used it, it would inevitably cause the people in the pugilistic world to criticize their Morgue village. Although the blood jade was precious, it wasn't worth it to ruin the reputation that the Morgue village had built up for decades. As for the northernmost Snowdrift city, they didn't have this concern. The northernmost Snowdrift city was neither righteous nor demonic, but their way of doing things was rough and overbearing, and they were often criticized by the people in the pugilistic world. To the northernmost Snowdrift city, as long as it was a good item, they dared to take it. They didn't care about righteous or evil. At this time, Ghost Hand King stood up and cupped his hands. Lord Branch Leader, since the northernmost Snowdrift city hasn't arrived yet, why don't we rob it now? When the northernmost Snowdrift city's people arrive, won't we have to face the experts of both sides at the same time? Heavenly Sin Branch Leader said in a deep voice, I have already sent someone to infiltrate the Fong family and bribed a direct descendant of the Fong family. Right now, Meng Yuanlong is guarding the Blood Jade, and there are more than 10 factions in the Linzhong Commandery that came to watch the show. If we attack by force, the success rate is less than 50%. Only at the time of the handover would the Blood Jade necklace be returned to the Fong clan. The Fong clan would personally hand it over to the people from the Driftsnow city in front of everyone. That would also be the only opportunity for us to act. But even so, our chances of seizing it by force are still very slim. So, I've already come up with a plan. We're going to use a deceptive method to steal the Blood Jade crystal. Sky Crime Branch Leader looked at everyone present and said in a deep voice, I need one of you to disguise yourself and pretend to be a member of the pugilistic world to sneak into the Fong clan. Afterwards, I brought all of the assassins of the Blue Dragon Society to lie in ambush outside the Fong residence before the handover ceremony. When the Blood Jade Jewel returned to the Fong residence, we attacked the Fong residence and attracted everyone's attention. When the time comes, the Fong family that I bribed will use the fake Blood Jade Linglong that I prepared in advance to replace it with the fake one, and take advantage of the chaos to give you the real one. In the midst of the chaos, no one will think of checking whether the Blood Jade crystal is real or fake. When one of you runs far away with the real Blood Jade crystal, I'll bring my men and leave. Then, this mission will be considered a success. Hearing Sky Crime Branch Leader say this, everyone present didn't say anything else. Clearly, for the sake of seizing the Blood Jade crystal, Sky Crime Branch Leader had already made a very detailed plan. Even the plan had been laid out. In that case, they only needed to listen to Sky Crime Branch Leader's orders. However, at this time, Chu Xiu faintly felt that there was something wrong with Sky Crime Branch Leader's plan. But as for what the problem was, he couldn't figure it out. At this time, Sky Crime Branch Leader looked at everyone and said, right now, there's only one problem. Which one of you will be responsible for sneaking into the Fong clan and being the key person to steal the fake Blood Jade crystal? This person must be bold and meticulous, and his methods must be nimble and adaptable. Otherwise, if something unexpected happens, it will be a disaster. Although the Heavenly Sin Branch Leader was looking at the crowd, his gaze was mainly on Chu Xiu and Tangya. Among everyone present, the strongest was still Yen Bugui. However, this kind of mission wasn't something that could be completed with strength alone. With Yen Bugui's personality, he was definitely not suitable to complete this kind of mission. Everyone was sure that even if this guy changed his appearance, he would still look the same. He would probably be discovered before he could even sneak into the Fang clan. Apart from Yen Bugui, the strongest were Tangya and Chu Xiu. Of these two, one was at the physical invulnerability stage, and his success rate in completing the mission was also extremely high. Although Chu Xiu was at the internal invulnerability stage, his ability to complete the mission was even more outstanding. His thoughts were meticulous, and his ability to plan was strong. Moreover, his strength was comparable to some of the weaker physical invulnerability stage martial artists. Sky Crime Branch leader pondered for a while, then said, "Chu Xiu, I'll leave this mission to you. Tangya's personality is too obvious, and I'm afraid that he will give himself away when he sneaks into the Fang clan. Don't worry, the Blue Dragon Society's reward and punishment system has always been very fair. Your mission is the most difficult one, so you deserve the most rewards." Chu Xiu furrowed his brows. Actually, he wasn't willing to accept this kind of mission that would bring him into the limelight. It was safer to follow behind everyone, and he would be able to obtain more benefits. But now that Sky Crime Branch leader had asked him to do it, he couldn't possibly give Chu Xiu a chance to refuse. Therefore, Chu Xiu could only stand up and cup his hands in greeting. "I'll follow Sky Crime Branch leader's orders." Sky Crime Branch leader nodded in satisfaction and said, "Since it's like this, let's start preparing. In order to make it seem more real, don't tell the other assassins about this matter. Let them think that our Sky Crime Branch is really going to attack the Fang clan head-on. Only then will it seem real." Everyone felt a chill in their hearts when they heard this. The ordinary assassins of the Blue Dragon Society were probably going to become cannon fodder this time. If they knew the inside story and knew that they were only going to create a diversion, then they definitely wouldn't risk their lives. Instead, they would just sit back and do nothing, preserving their strength. A few people could do this, but over 100 assassins from the Blue Dragon Society would do the same. Even an idiot would feel that something was wrong. Therefore, Sky Crime Branch leader specially called them to the meeting hall to talk about this matter. He was afraid that the other assassins would find out about this. However, everyone present knew Sky Crime Branch leader's personality. At this moment, no one was willing to offend him. They immediately nodded in agreement and went to prepare for their own matters. Because Chu Xiu wanted to sneak into the Fang clan, he had to disguise himself first. In the Blue Dragon Society, the Ghostly Hand King was the best at disguising himself. Although the Ghostly Hand King's martial arts weren't too outstanding, he knew a lot of miscellaneous things. When carrying out a mission, he could use all of his random tricks. Sometimes, he could even kill people faster than Chu Xiu and the others. Although the Ghostly Hand King couldn't be said to have achieved great success in disguising himself, he could be said to be proficient in it. It wasn't a problem for him to temporarily disguise Chu Xiu as someone else. The Ghostly Hand King directly pulled Chu Xiu into his room and put a human skin mask on Chu Xiu. Then, he took out a large number of bottles and jars and began to smear them on Chu Xiu's face. He also took out a scraper and a fine brush and began to refine it. After a quarter of an hour, Chu Xiu looked like a completely different person. Right now, Chu Xiu's appearance was basically that of a man in his 30s. He had a sallow complexion, and he didn't look like he had anything to show. It wasn't just his face. Even Chu Xiu's hands and all of his exposed skin had been painted a sallow color by the Ghostly Hand King. In any case, it was basically impossible to see from the outside. Chu Xiu clicked his tongue in praise. "Ghostly Hand King, your skills are superb. You really live up to your name of Ghostly Hand." The Ghostly Hand King chuckled. "It's nothing. Right now, the place with the most amazing disguising techniques should be the wind-sweeping pavilion. Those anemophilia have thousands of faces. They often infiltrate large clans and sects to gather information. They do it unknowingly. However, this low-level disguising technique of mine has quite a big flaw. These things on your face can't come in contact with water. Otherwise, they will dissolve. Also, your aura needs to be concealed. As he said that, the ghostly hand king took out a jade talisman and handed it to Chu Xiu. This is a jade talisman that can conceal your aura. As long as you actively suppress your aura and wear this jade talisman, even a great expert at the unity of the world realm won't be able to see your true strength. Of course, you can't make a move. As long as you use a trace of qi, the formation on the jade talisman will lose its effect. You will also be completely exposed. Chu Xiu glanced at his own attire. As long as there were no accidents, there didn't seem to be any big problems. Of course, even if there were any accidents, Chu Xiu would definitely choose to immediately escape without the slightest bit of hesitation. He wasn't so loyal to the Blue Dragon Society that he would throw his life away. Especially since this mission wasn't a mission from the Blue Dragon Society, but a mission from the Heavenly Sin Branch leader himself. During this period of time, Chu Xiu had been adapting to the actions of his identity and the way he spoke. He was trying his best to not be seen through. Half a month later, the people from the extreme north's fluttering snow city arrived at the Fong family. The Blue Dragon Society was also completely mobilized. They hid around the Fong family and struck at the crucial moment. At this time, there were already many martial artists in front of and inside the Fong family. Apart from the people from the morgue and the extreme north's fluttering snow city, most of them were martial artists from the forest commandery. To them, this kind of bustle was really rare. Actually, most of the martial artists from the forest commandery would still praise the Fong family for their cleverness in doing this. Although the probability of obtaining a treasure from a low-grade secret box was very low, to the point that it was infuriating, the pugilistic world was so big that such things had always happened, almost without a break. Most of the small clans couldn't help but completely occupy the treasure after obtaining it, not wanting to share it with anyone else. In the end, only a very small portion of people used this treasure to greatly improve their clan strength. Most of the clans, however, were exterminated for their treasures. The Fong family was quite decisive. As soon as they saw that their own treasure had aroused the greed of others, they immediately found a solid backer to hug in exchange for protection and support. Chapter 124. The Fong clan was just a small clan in the Linzhong commandery, but at this moment, it was very crowded. Most of the people were actually here to join in the fun. They wanted to see what this so-called ancient demonic treasure, the blood jade crystal, looked like. Among them were people from the Qingchen sect and the Jindao sect. At this moment, the people from these two sects were filled with regret. If they had known this would happen, they would have given up on the idea of fighting for it and directly attacked the Fong clan. In the end, they could only watch as the treasure fell into the hands of the fluttering snow city of the far north. They didn't even dare to say a word. The two sects were considered to be powerful in the Linzhong commandery, but compared to the fluttering snow city of the far north, they were like ants. At this moment, Chu Xiu disguised himself as an ordinary martial artist and blended in with the crowd. He didn't stand out at all. As he strolled back and forth, he was also investigating the situation and movements of the entire Fong clan. After about 2 hours, a group of people walked in from outside. The leader was a middle-aged man in his 40s. He wore a snow-white tiger skin robe and had a cold expression. There was a hideous knife scar on his face that extended from his forehead to the left side of his face. One look and anyone could tell that he was not someone to be trifled with. Someone beside him said, "It's the 13th master of the fluttering snow city, Raging Flame Mad Blade, Bai Jianghu." This 13th master of the Bai clan was born in a branch family, but he followed the elders of the Bai clan to fight for the fluttering snow city of the far north since he was young. Now, he has reached the peak of the chi-controlling realm and is one with the world. In the fluttering snow city of the far north, his status is not inferior to the martial artists of the direct line of descent. It seems that the fluttering snow city of the far north also values the blood jade crystal very much. They actually sent such an expert to personally welcome it. At this moment, the patriarch of the Fang clan also personally came out to welcome Bai Qinhu. There was a joyful smile on his face as he bowed to Bai Qinhu and said, "To trouble the 13th master to come personally, our Fang clan is really honored by your presence." Bai Qinhu squeezed out a stiff smile and said, "Since the Fang clan has decided to join my Drifts Now city, then my Drifts Now city will naturally protect the Fang clan for the rest of their lives. Since the Fang family trusts my Drifts Now city, then my Drifts Now city will not go back on its word. From now on, the Fang family will be under the protection of my Drifts Now city. If anyone dares to target the Fang family, then that is equivalent to provoking my Drifts Now city." After saying this, Bai Qinhu's gaze swept across the crowd. His eyes seemed to have a chilling glint that made everyone's hearts tremble. This was especially so for those from the Qingchen sect and Jindao sect. They were afraid that with the support of the Drifts Now city of the extreme north, they would suffer the revenge of the Fang clan. Seeing Bai Qinhu's actions, Chu Xiu secretly raised his eyebrows. This time, the Drifts Now city of the extreme north actually sent a great expert who was one with the world. It seemed that the Tianzui branch leader would have some trouble. But if it was troublesome, then so be it. In any case, the mission over there was not something he wanted to do. Since the Tianzui branch leader had the confidence to act, then he should be able to predict that he would have to deal with 2 or more experts who were one with the world at the same time. And the words that Bai Qinhu said actually had a very deep meaning. His words were not only for the Bai clan to hear, but also for the people of the pugilistic world to hear. If one discovered a secret treasure and wanted to hide it, then there would be a calamity that would lead to the destruction of the entire clan. And if one offered it to the Drifts Now city of the extreme north, then they would be like the Fang clan, receiving the protection and status they deserved. There was no need to say which side was more suitable. After the people from the Drifts Now city of the extreme north were welcomed into the Fang clan, Chu Xiu immediately stealthily retreated into the backyard of the Fang clan. At this moment, regardless of whether it was the people of the Fang clan or the people of the pugilistic world, all of their attention was on the front yard. The people of the Fang clan would officially hand over the blood jade to the people from the Drifts Now city. Although this was just a ceremony, it was a ceremony that was held in front of everyone, and there was even the Morgue village as a witness. If in the future, the Drifts Now city of the extreme north went back on their word and didn't protect the Fang clan, that would be a violation of the rules. Not only would the Drifts Now city of the extreme north lose face, even the Morgue village would have to speak out for the Fang clan, seeking justice for the Fang clan. This was also the role of a witness, just like how Zen Master Hengshan acted as a witness during the Grand Assembly of Yananshian's Golden Basin washing hands. In the backyard, Chu Xiu was hiding under a rock garden. At this moment, the majority of the people of the Fang clan were in the front yard. Basically, no one would come to the backyard. And even if someone came, they wouldn't be able to discover Chu Xiu. At this time, a Fang clan disciple in his 20s came to the backyard sneakily with a box in his hand, looking around for something. Chu Xiu picked up the long sword in his hand and rhythmically knocked on the rock garden a few times. The young man's eyes suddenly lit up and immediately ran to Chu Xiu's side, stuffed the box into Chu Xiu's hands, and cautiously said, "I've brought the thing for you, quickly leave, directly from the backyard, the front yard is already full of martial artists, I can't leave for too long, otherwise it will arouse suspicion." After saying that, the young martial artist was about to leave. But at this time, when Chu Xiu took the box, he felt that something was slightly wrong. He directly opened the box. Inside the box was an exquisite blood jade that was the size of a fist and had an irregular shape. It contained countless intricate blood lines, appearing incomparably mystical and magnificent. It was the shape of the legendary blood jade. Seeing that Chu Xiu opened the box, the young man suddenly became a little flustered. He hurriedly said, "What are you still looking at here? Quickly take the thing and leave. Otherwise, if we're discovered, both of us will be out of luck." Looking at the blood jade, Chu Xiu suddenly stretched out his hand and grabbed the martial artist's neck, coldly saying, "This isn't a blood jade at all." The Fang clan martial artist struggled. "What are you doing? If this isn't a blood jade, what else can it be? Let me go. Could it be that you want to cheat on me?" Looking at the Fang clan martial artist, Chu Xiu's eyes revealed a trace of coldness. This Fang clan martial artist was lying, and even that Heaven Crime Branch leader's plan was problematic. In the original plot, Chu Xiu had never seen a blood jade, nor had he seen one in this life, only heard of it. But now, the thing in the box looked exactly like a blood jade, so why did Chu Xiu think that it wasn't a blood jade? The reason was very simple. It was because the baleful blood energy he condensed was utterly unable to resonate with the energy within the blood jade crystal in the slightest. Chu Xiu's secret technique, piercing the sun and moon, was a martial art of the Blood River sect. It could be said that it came from the same source as this blood jade. In the end, Chu Xiu had not sensed any power that belonged to the Blood River sect from the blood jade exquisite. After that, he had opened the box and tested it with the blood qi, but the blood jade exquisite did not resonate with him at all. A treasure refined by a sect using their own secret technique could not even trigger the sect's own martial art to resonate. What was this if not a joke? Also, after discovering that there was a problem with the blood jade, Chu Xiu realized that there was something wrong with the Heaven Crime Branch leader's plan. When the Heaven Crime Branch leader told him this plan, Chu Xiu felt that something was wrong, but he could not tell what exactly was wrong. Only now did Chu Xiu know what was wrong. This plan was too smooth. There was no problem with the arrangement of the plan. The problem was that the Heaven Crime Branch leader only needed to bribe a direct descendant of the Fang family to steal the real blood jade. In the process, the blood jade would fall back into the hands of the Fang family, but it would not be controlled by just one person from the Fang family. There would definitely be many people, including the disciples of the morgue. After all, Meng Yuanlong had not come alone. He had brought many disciples with him. Putting Chu Xiu in the shoes of this Fang family disciple, with Chu Xiu's strength and the secret technique he knew, the chances of him successfully swapping the blood jade was less than 10%. How could this Fang family disciple so easily swap the blood jade? Even if he was the son of the Fang family's head, it would still be impossible. Furthermore, this Fang family disciple in front of him was only at the blood condensation realm, and he didn't seem to be very scheming. On the contrary, he seemed to be a bit impatient. If division leader Tian Xin wanted to rely on him to steal the blood jade exquisite, then that would be a joke. Looking at the Fang family disciple, a cold light appeared in Chu Xiu's eyes. The heaven-extinguishing earth-extinguishing soul-shifting technique was used. In an instant, Chu Xiu's eyes seemed to become a bottomless abyss. The Fang family disciple's gaze involuntarily sank deeper and deeper into that bottomless abyss, completely losing himself. With Chu Xiu's current cultivation base, using the heaven-extinguishing earth-extinguishing soul-shifting technique to deal with a soul condensation cultivator was very simple. "Is the blood jade real?" asked Chu Xiu in a low voice. The Fang family disciple said in a sluggish voice, "It's fake. The real blood jade is being guarded by 2 elders of the Fang family as well as several disciples of the morgue. Although I'm a direct descendant, I don't have the qualifications to approach it." Chu Xiu's expression turned cold and he continued to ask, "Then what's the deal with this thing you gave me?" "It was given to me by that lord. He told me to come to the rear courtyard at this time and give it to someone. He also told me to treat the box as the real blood jade. I had to personally see him take it and leave the Fang family. I only had a quarter hour before he left the Fang family's territory." "Who is that lord?" "I don't know, but he gave me many cultivation techniques and cultivation resources. Afterwards, I can take these things and leave the Fang family, living a life of riches and freedom. Did he give you any other orders? No, that's all. Chu Xiu's expression was dark as he strangled the Fong family disciple to death. At this time, he was certain that he had been played. To be more accurate, he had been used as a pawn by the Heaven Crime Branch leader. Or perhaps it was better to say that he had been abandoned. Chapter 125. According to what the Fong family disciple said, Chu Xiu could more or less guess what was going on. Actually, there was no problem with the Heavenly Sin Division leader's plan. It was just that the Heavenly Sin Division leader's side wasn't the one to divert the firepower. Instead, it was Chu Xiu's side. If Chu Xiu's guess was correct, this fake blood jade crystal ring must have been tampered with. After a quarter of an hour, it would explode. At that time, it would attract everyone's attention, making them think that the real blood jade crystal ring was on Chu Xiu's body and that it had been stolen. While everyone's attention was focused on Chu Xiu, the Heavenly Sin Branch leader would lead a group of people to snatch away the real blood jade exquisite jade. It could be said that this so-called stealing the beam and changing the pillar and making a feint in the east while attacking the west were all for others to see. They wanted to make the people of the drifting snow city and the morgue think that the blood jade exquisite jade had been stolen, allowing Chu Xiu to attract the majority of the firepower. Although not everyone would be attracted to Chu Xiu, there would definitely be fewer people left in the Fong family than before. If the Sky Crime Branch leader pretended to stop them from chasing after Chu Xiu, it would make others believe that this was the Blue Dragon Society's plan. At that time, there would definitely be more people chasing after Chu Xiu. At that time, the Heavenly Sin Branch Master would attack with his full strength. The chances of him snatching the blood jade crystal would be much higher than if he attacked head-on. No wonder the Heavenly Sin Branch leader trusted Chu Xiu so much and wasn't afraid that Chu Xiu would run away with the blood jade. It was because Chu Xiu was holding a fake. Chu Xiu took a deep breath. This matter was dangerous enough. If it weren't for the fact that Chu Xiu cultivated the sun-moon piercing chi from the Blood River cult and sensed that something was wrong with the blood jade, and if it weren't for the fact that Chu Xiu was naturally suspicious and felt that there was something wrong with the Fong clan disciple, then Chu Xiu might have really fallen into the Heavenly Sin Branch leader's trap. It could be said that in this plan, Chu Xiu played the role of a sacrificial pawn to attract the firepower. Under the siege of that powerful force, Chu Xiu had almost no hope of survival. Rubbing his chin with a gloomy expression, Chu Xiu had actually taken the bullet for Tangya this time. For the Heavenly Sin Branch leader, sacrificing a subordinate assassin in exchange for a treasure like the blood jade was undoubtedly worth it. It didn't matter if the assassin was an inner invulnerability expert or a physical invulnerability expert. One could tell just by looking at his attitude. The assassins in the branch who didn't have a code name didn't even know the inside story. They fought with their lives on the line just to put on a more realistic act. This Heavenly Sin Branch leader was obviously an extremely egoistic and cold-hearted person. As long as the value was high enough, he would even sacrifice everyone in the Heavenly Sin Branch. This time, the Heavenly Sin Branch leader chose Chu Xiu to attract the firepower, not because he had any opinions about Chu Xiu, but because Chu Xiu's performance was too outstanding, steady, and strong. That was why he chose Chu Xiu. Choosing Yan Bugui was obviously unreliable. Although Tangya was slightly better than Yan Bugui, he was temperamental, eccentric, and unpredictable. Among the assassins in the Heavenly Sin Branch, the strongest and most reliable was Chu Xiu. If he didn't choose him, who else could he choose? Because his performance was the most reliable, he was tricked. Chu Xiu didn't know how to describe this situation anymore. In the original plot, Chu Xiu didn't have him, so the one who was tricked this time was definitely Tangya. As for whether Tangya died or not, Chu Xiu didn't know. However, in such a dangerous situation, if Tangya didn't see the flaw, then he would most likely be in danger. Chu Xiu looked at the fake blood jade exquisite in his hand, and his eyes revealed a hint of coldness. Since the Heavenly Sin Branch leader tricked him, Chu Xiu naturally wouldn't continue to stay in the Blue Dragon Society. However, even if he left, he couldn't leave so easily. Otherwise, wouldn't he suffer a great loss? Didn't the Heavenly Sin Branch leader want to play a diversion and steal the beam and replace the pillar? Fine, I'll play with him for a while. The Blood Jade Exquisite was the secret treasure of the Blood River sect. Since he had obtained the Piercing Sun and Moon secret technique, then now that the Blood Jade Exquisite had appeared, wasn't it just fated with him? After throwing the Fong family disciple's corpse to a corner, Chu Xiu calculated the time, took the fake Blood Jade Exquisite and quietly appeared in the front yard. At this moment, the center of the front yard of the Fong family was empty. Bai Qinhu and Meng Yuanlong were already there with some people waiting for the Fong family head to take out the Blood Jade Exquisite. Meng Yuanlong stared at the commotion in the surroundings as he involuntarily shook his head. Your Drifts Now city is really something. You could have just taken the Blood Jade Jewel and brought the Fong clan to the northern lands. Why did you have to create such a huge commotion? Bai Qinhu's slightly fierce face revealed a hint of surprise. This is the idea of those elders. They said that the northern Fluttering Snow City has given the people of Jianghu a bad impression and we need to restore our image. Our northern Fluttering Snow City has been in the north for thousands of years. It's enough that we have strength. We're not your righteous manner. Why do we need to maintain our image? Bai Qinhu's words made Meng Yuanlong speechless. The people of the northern Fluttering Snow City really didn't know how to speak. Your Fluttering Snow City is strong enough, so you don't need to care about your image. But my righteous manner is weak, so you need to maintain your image? Meng Yuanlong silently waved his hand. How troublesome. If I knew that your Fluttering Snow City has so many things to do, I would have passed the information about the Blood Jade Exquisite to the Divine Martial sect. I reckon they would be interested. Bai Qinhu wanted to say that the Divine Martial sect might not want this demonic item, but at this moment, a loud laughter rang out. The people of the northern Fluttering Snow City are so slow. Why don't you just hand over the Blood Jade Exquisite to me? I'm very happy. After I take the item, I will definitely not trouble you anymore. Meng Yuanlong and Bai Qinhu's expressions suddenly changed. They immediately looked in the direction of the voice and saw that the surroundings of the Fong residence were already filled with assassins of the Blue Dragon Society. The Heavenly Sin Branch leader's body was surrounded by astral energy. He descended from the wall and stepped on the air. There seemed to be stairs under his feet as he descended step by step. It was an incomparably mystical sight. Everyone present had a look of astonishment on their faces. The Blue Dragon Society had just annihilated the Yao clan not long ago. This time, they had their eyes on the Blood Jade Exquisite again. Bai Qinhu's eyes revealed a hint of coldness. He stretched out his hand, and a crimson saber that seemed to be burning with raging flames was quickly taken out from the secret space box and erected beside him. It's someone from your Heavenly Sin Branch again. I say, your Heavenly Sin Branch really doesn't learn from your mistakes. Don't touch things that you shouldn't touch. 3 years ago, I participated in the annihilation of the Heavenly Sin Branch. Now that you've been sent here by the Blue Dragon Society to be the branch leader of the Heavenly Sin Branch, you're even more insignificant than the previous branch leader. Could it be that your Heavenly Sin Branch wants to be annihilated again? Bai Qinhu looked at the Heavenly Sin Branch leader with a hint of coldness in his eyes. Other small sects might fear the Blue Dragon Society, but the Fluttering Snow City of the Northern Fluttering Snow City would not. The Blue Dragon Society was one of the 4 divine spirits, but the Fluttering Snow City of the Northern Fluttering Snow City was also one of the 7 sects and 8 schools. If this was the Blue Dragon Society's headquarters, Bai Qinhu naturally wouldn't dare to say such words, but this was the Northern Yen territory. Meng Yuanlong also stood to the side with a long sword in his hand and coldly said, Heavenly Sin Branch leader, your Blue Dragon Society has crossed the line. Since you're an assassin, you should be an honest assassin. The blood jade crystal is not something you can covet. Heavenly Sin Branch Leader lightly said, I'm tired of being an assassin. I don't mind being a bandit. As his voice fell, Heavenly Sin Branch Leader blasted out a punch. The blue astral energy around his body condensed into an incomparably sharp blue longsword. It was clearly a punch, but it contained an incomparably strong sword intent. Bai Qinhu coldly snorted. Then, he brandished his flaming long blade with a loud rumble. The incomparably violent blade intent transformed into a blazing waterfall and fell down with a loud rumble. The scorching aura caused all the experts present to immediately retreat frantically. If they were to be touched by this blade light, they would easily be seriously injured. On the other side, Meng Yuanlong also attacked. His sword spun 9 times, transforming into 9 different sword auras that sealed off all the vital acupoints on the Heavenly Sin Branch Leader's body. Although the Blood Jade Exquisite Jade had already belonged to the Northern Drifts Now city, they had to pay a sufficient price for the Morgue Manor to give this opportunity to them. Moreover, the Morgue Manor was also a witness to the resolution of the matter. Now that branch leader Tianzue wanted to snatch the Blood Jade Crystal Necklace, Meng Yuanlong naturally had to stand on Bai Qinhu's side. In an instant, the 3 of them were engaged in a chaotic battle. Tian Sin Branch Leader shouted at Yen Bugui and the others, all of you, hurry up and get the Blood Jade Exquisite Jade. Bai Qinhu and Meng Yuanlong's complexion changed slightly. Only now did they realize why branch leader Tianzue would attack at this time. Previously, the Blood Jade Exquisite Jade Necklace had been kept by Meng Yuanlong. Unless branch leader Tianzue could kill Meng Yuanlong, he would absolutely not be able to snatch the Blood Jade Exquisite Jade Necklace. Only at this time, the Blood Jade Exquisite Jade Necklace would once again fall into the hands of the Fong family. This would also give branch leader Tianzue a chance to snatch it. Thinking of this, Meng Yuanlong secretly cursed the Northern Drifts Now city for being too troublesome. If it wasn't for the fact that they insisted on these formalities, he would have directly handed over the Blood Jade Exquisite Jade Necklace to them. Then, branch leader Tianzue probably wouldn't have come here. However, Meng Yuanlong could only shout at the people he brought with him, hurry up and protect the Blood Jade Exquisite Jade Necklace. Don't let the assassins of the Blue Dragon Society succeed. On the other side, Bai Qinhu also did the same. He also ordered the people of the Northern Drifts Now city to hurry up and protect the Blood Jade Exquisite Necklace first. At this moment, they were somewhat regretful. If they had known this would happen, they would have brought more people. Whether it was Bai Qinhu or Meng Yuanlong, they both thought that this was just a formality. They came here because their status was high enough, so they didn't bring too many people with them. In fact, there weren't even a few people in the physical invulnerability realm. After all, in the Northern Yen, there weren't many people who dared to provoke the Morgue Manor and the Northern Drifts Now city. However, who would have thought that someone would be so daring as to snatch the Blood Jade Exquisite Necklace at this time? Chapter 126. Although he was fighting 1 against 2, the Heavenly Sin Division leader wasn't actually at a disadvantage. Almost all of the assassins in the Blue Dragon Society were battle-hardened, especially those who could reach the Heavenly Sin Division leader's level. While they might be lacking in other areas, their combat prowess was astonishing. Meng Yuanlong and the others were quite famous, but they were either cultivating or dealing with sect affairs. What about the assassins in the Blue Dragon Society? Apart from cultivating, their lives were filled with killing. In a real one-on-one fight, neither Bai Qinhu nor Meng Yuanlong were a match for the Heavenly Sin Division leader. However, now that the 2 of them were fighting together, they were more confident. With the Heavenly Sin Division's current strength, it was practically impossible to snatch the Blood Jade Crystal. At this moment, the Heavenly Sin Division leader looked into the distance. It was almost time. The arrangements he left behind should be activated, right? The Heavenly Sin Division leader didn't feel that it was a pity that he had schemed against Chu Xiu. He admitted that Chu Xiu was indeed very strong and capable. In the future, he would almost certainly become the ace assassin of the Blue Dragon Society and bring glory to the Heavenly Sin Division. However, these things were nothing compared to the Blood Jade Crystal. There was only one Blood Jade Crystal, but there were many talented assassins. Back then, he had pulled Chu Xiu into the Blue Dragon Society because it was convenient. If he could find one Chu Xiu, he was confident that he could find a second or third Chu Xiu. Moreover, the Heavenly Sin Division leader had never thought of staying in the Northern Yen Division for the rest of his life. To him, the entire Heavenly Sin Division was just a springboard. Back in the day, he had been tricked by someone, and the Dragon Head had kicked him to the Heavenly Sin branch in a fit of rage. But now that he was stronger, it was only a matter of time before he returned to the Azure Dragon Society. The Heavenly Sin branch was just a springboard for him to get back to the Azure Dragon Society. Heavenly Sin Division leader was fighting Meng Yuanlong and Bai Qinhu at a moderate pace. He had only used 70% of his strength. If the following plan went smoothly, Chu Xiu's arrangements would detonate, and most of the people would be attracted to Chu Xiu's side. That would be the time for him to truly exert his strength. Naturally, he had to reserve some strength for now. At this time, Chu Xiu was mixed in the crowd of onlookers, calculating the time in his heart. The disciple from the Fong clan had said that he only had a quarter of an hour. Clearly, after a quarter of an hour, the fake blood jade exquisite in his hand would undergo some changes. As for what this change was, it would be revealed in a moment. Just as Chu Xiu felt that it was about time, he suddenly rushed out and shouted at the Heaven Sin Division leader, "Sir Division Leader, I have obtained the Blood Jade Crystal." With that, Chu Xiu threw the box containing the Blood Jade to the Heavenly Sin Division leader with a bit of strength. When the Heaven Sin Division leader heard the words, "Blood Jade Crystal Exquisite," he reflexively turned around to catch the box. However, he suddenly realized that this was Chu Xiu's voice. Within the crowd, Chu Xiu gave the Heavenly Sin branch leader a sinister smile, then once again disappeared into the crowd. The Heaven Sin Division leader immediately cursed inwardly. However, at this moment, the box in his hand suddenly exploded with a blinding blood-red light. It even soared into the heavens, looking incomparably magnificent. Bai Qinhu and Meng Yuanlong's expressions suddenly changed. Blood Jade Crystal Exquisite. That blinding blood-red light was the manifestation of the Blood Jade Crystal Exquisite. Because the powerful blood qi within it was too strong, after the Blood Jade Crystal Exquisite was opened from the secret box, it would automatically release this blood-red light if it received any external impact. Back then, the Qingchen sect and the Golden Blade School were able to discover that the Fong clan had opened the Blood Jade Crystal Exquisite because someone from the Fong clan had accidentally dropped the Blood Jade Crystal Exquisite on the ground, causing it to explode with this blood-red light. What Bai Qinhu and Meng Yuanlong didn't understand was how this person from the Blue Dragon Society had obtained the Blood Jade Crystal Exquisite in front of so many people. However, at this moment, they didn't have time to think too much. The two of them instantly exploded with their strongest power and attacked the Heaven Sin Division leader. They had to make him stay here. The Heaven Sin Division leader's expression changed, and he cursed inwardly, "Damn it." At this moment, how could he not understand that his scheme had been seen through by Chu Xiu? Moreover, Chu Xiu was actually daring enough to plot against him. This series of changes made everyone below unable to react. At this moment, even the Fong clan's clan head was dumbfounded. The Blood Jade Crystal Exquisite was guarded by 2 elders and other disciples of the Fong clan. There were even a few disciples from the morgue. How did it suddenly appear among the assassins of the Blue Dragon Society? The Fong clan head grabbed a disciple who ran out of the Fong clan's inner residence and asked, "What exactly happened? When was the Blood Jade Crystal Exquisite taken?" The disciple shook his head in panic and said, "The Blood Jade Crystal Exquisite has always been in the inner residence. No one has touched it." The two elders are also puzzled, so they asked me to come out and take a look. The Fang clan head was stunned. If no one had touched the blood jade crystal exquisite, then how did two blood jade crystal exquisite appear? However, at this moment, the Fang clan disciples suddenly said, "However, I seem to have seen the seventh young master take something out. It is a bit similar to that box. Even now, the seventh young master still hasn't returned." The Fang clan head was stunned. Damn it! This bastard! The seventh young master was not his son, but the son of his younger brother. He was also considered a direct descendant of the Fang clan. Naturally, he was qualified to enter the Fang clan's inner residence. The blood jade crystal exquisite had just been lost, and there was no trace of the seventh young master. It was very easy for people to think that the seventh young master had stolen the beam and replaced the pillar. However, now that everyone was in a mess, no one could think of how the seventh young master had managed to steal the beam and replace the pillar under the watch of the Fang clan elders and the disciples of the righteous manner. The Fang clan head's words were also heard intermittently by Jianghu and Meng Yuanlong, who had extremely powerful senses. The two of them sneered at the Heavenly Sin branch leader and said, "Good move. You bribed an idiot in the Fang clan to be a traitor and stole the blood jade crystal exquisite. I have underestimated you." The Heavenly Sin branch leader threw the fake blood jade crystal exquisite at the two of them and snorted coldly. "Stealing the beam and replacing the pillar, my ass. If I had really succeeded in stealing the beam and replacing the pillar, do you think I would have let you find out? This thing is fake, and I have also been tricked." As he spoke, the Heavenly Sin branch leader was about to leave, but he was stopped by Jianghu and Meng Yuanlong. Jianghu said coldly, "Do you think we will believe you? Hand over the real blood jade crystal exquisite." The Heavenly Sin branch leader's series of actions showed that he was prepared to steal the beam and replace the pillar with the blood jade crystal exquisite. In fact, this was indeed the original plan. Now that the Heavenly Sin branch leader had thrown the fake blood jade crystal exquisite to the two of them, they became even more suspicious. Who knew what methods the Heavenly Sin branch leader had to switch the item without anyone knowing? If they really believed the Heavenly Sin branch leader's words, then they would be idiots. Therefore, no matter who had the blood jade crystal exquisite, they had to take down the Heavenly Sin branch leader first. With 2 against 1, no matter how strong the Heavenly Sin branch leader's combat strength was, they would still have a higher chance of winning in the end. Seeing that he was being held back by the two of them, the Heavenly Sin branch leader was so angry that he wanted to curse. Right now, the two of them did not even give him a chance to explain. Besides resisting, what else could he do? At this time, Chu Xiu had already taken advantage of the Heavenly Sin branch leader fighting in the front yard to sneak into the inner yard. At this time, the blood jade crystal exquisite was still in the inner yard of the Fang family. The people of the Fang family's inner yard and the martial art practitioners who were responsible for guarding the blood jade crystal exquisite were confused. The people they had sent out had said that the blood jade crystal exquisite had been replaced, but they had been guarding the place the whole time. How could the blood jade crystal exquisite have been replaced? Previously, the Fang family's 7th young master had indeed wandered around the place. However, with his status, he did not have the qualifications to touch the blood jade crystal exquisite. He had just wandered around the place when he was scolded by the 2 Fang family elders and chased out. The people guarding the blood jade crystal exquisite were a little confused. Was the thing they were guarding the blood jade crystal exquisite? One of the Fang family elders said cautiously, "Why don't we open it and take a look? Is this blood jade crystal exquisite real?" One of the martial art practitioners looked at him and coldly snorted. "What are you looking at? Your Fang family still has the nerve to look at it? You don't even know that there is a traitor among your own people. What a joke." The Fang clan elder was instantly given the cold shoulder when he heard this. However, right at this moment, the door was pushed open. The Fang clan elder was just about to ask who it was when a crimson blade light flashed, and the Fang clan elder was instantly and forcefully slashed into two. There were a total of 4 people in the room. The 2 Fang family elders were only at the Xiantian realm. They were simply trash and not worth worrying about. The truly troublesome ones were the 2 inner gang realm martial art practitioners. If they could not get rid of them quickly, it would be troublesome. From the moment the door was pushed open to the moment he killed someone, only a moment had passed. Before the 3 people present could react, blood had already splattered along with the blade. Chu Xiu's extremely fast saber was hidden in the blood. The other Fang family elder had clearly seen Chu Xiu's saber attack. However, just as he raised the long sword in his hand, his head was cut off by Chu Xiu's saber. "How dare you!" The other 2 martial art practitioners from the Fang family elder shouted angrily and subconsciously rushed towards Chu Xiu. At this moment, a layer of black gas appeared in Chu Xiu's eyes and the body of his saber. As the saber slashed down, it was as if the gates of hell had opened. The blade slid down and purgatory was endless. In order to end the battle quickly, Chu Xiu directly used his strongest Avici saber. Even a physical invulnerability realm martial art practitioner would not be able to easily block this strange saber, let alone an inner gang realm martial art practitioner. At the moment when the Avici saber slashed down, a martial art practitioner was killed on the spot. There was not a single scar on his body. However, his blood was strangely drawn out and he looked like a mummy. The other inner gang realm martial art practitioner from the Fang family elder brushed past the terrifying demonic saber. Although he was lucky to survive, his eyes were filled with endless fear and he immediately ran outside. Chu Xiu executed the great sacrificial grappling hand, wanting to pull the cultivator back. However, the cultivator turned around and sent out a palm strike. A cold light flashed in Chu Xiu's eyes. The grappling hand instantly transformed into the great purple sun palm of extinguishing heaven and earth. When this palm strike landed, the cultivator's arm was completely distorted. The purple sun demonic flames entered his body, causing him to howl in pain. However, before he could howl, Chu Xiu slapped him again and directly smashed the martial art practitioner's meridians. He picked up the blood jade crystal from the secret box and turned around to run. Chapter 127. Everyone in the Fang clan was focused on the front yard. Everyone thought that the blood jade was being fought over by the Heavenly Sin branch leader and the other 2. Otherwise, why would the 3 of them be fighting so fiercely? Therefore, no one noticed that Chu Xiu had killed several people from the inner residence and taken away the blood jade exquisite pendant. It wasn't until the fight between the 3 in the front courtyard became a little too intense that the powerful stellar energy directly destroyed several of the surrounding houses. Only then did the Fang clan prepare to hide in the inner residence. The patriarch of the Fang family pushed open the door to the inner chamber. The first thing he smelled was the stench of blood. His expression changed abruptly, and he hurriedly opened the door. He saw the people from the morgue and 2 elders of the Fang family lying in a pool of blood. The blood jade exquisite that they thought had been stolen had disappeared. Clan leader Fang clapped his hands, ran out and shouted, "Master Bai, Master Meng." Something was not right. The people from the morgue and the Fang clan were killed, and the blood jade jewels they were guarding are gone. Bai Qinhu and Meng Yuanlong immediately stopped and looked at the Heavenly Crime Branch leader. Heavenly Sin Branch leader gritted his teeth. Of course, he knew who did it. His scheme had been seen through by that brat. He didn't expect that he would be so audacious as to use his scheme against him. In the end, he had really snatched away the blood jade exquisite jade. Looking at Bai Qinhu and Meng Yuanlong, the Heavenly Sin Branch leader snorted coldly and said, "I already said that I was also schemed against. Why don't you think about it? If I really had the means to secretly replace the blood jade crystal pendant, why would that bastard have given it to me? With me attracting the firepower in front, wouldn't it be better for him to take the item and leave? Bai Qinhu and Meng Yuanlong glanced at each other. Given the chaotic situation just now and the sudden burst of power from the fake blood jade crystal, who could think of anything else? However, Heavenly Sin Division leader's words did make sense. If someone really did sneak into the Fang clan and stole the blood jade jewel, then as long as Heavenly Sin Division leader was there to attract the attention of the enemy, they could easily retreat from the Fang clan. Yet, in the end, that person had taken the initiative to jump out and throw the item to Sky Crime Branch leader. From stealing in secret to openly stealing, it was as if he was afraid that others would not know that they were the ones who had stolen the blood jade. It was indeed a little strange. Who set you up? Who took away the blood jade crystal? Bai Qinhu asked in a cold voice. The Sky Crime Branch leader coldly snorted and ignored him. He led the members of the Blue Dragon Society and was about to leave. He had been tricked by his own subordinate. How could he say such a shameful thing? Bai Qinhu's eyes were filled with anger. Just as he was about to attack, he was stopped by Meng Yuanlong. Even if the two of us join forces, it will still be very strenuous for us to capture him. Let's first investigate who has the blood jade crystal gem. Hearing Meng Yuanlong's words, Bai Qinhu coldly snorted and returned to the Fang clan to check the corpses. The room where the blood jade crystal gem had been placed was now filled with blood. Meng Yuanlong and Bai Qinhu checked the cause of death of the four people and said in a low voice, "It should be an outer invulnerability realm martial artist or an extremely strong inner invulnerability realm martial artist." But the question is, who was it? From what Heavenly Sin Branch leader said, he should know. Moreover, the person who knew his plan and schemed against him was someone from the Heavenly Sin Branch? Meng Yuanlong and Bai Qinhu felt that this was a little unbelievable. They knew what the Heavenly Sin Branch was like. Because the Heavenly Sin Branch had only recently been rebuilt, the overall strength of the Heavenly Sin Branch was actually not that strong. The Heavenly Sin Branch leader was practically omnipotent, and his subordinate actually dared to scheme against him? Which audacious bastard did this? At this moment, a martial artist from the morgue suddenly pointed at the chest of one of the corpses and said, "Lord Meng, I think I know who did this." "Oh? Which one is it?" The martial artist pointed at the dark purple handprint on the chest of one of the corpses and said, "The assassin, blood demon, Chu Xiu of the Blue Dragon Society has a sinister palm technique that can leave this kind of mark on a person's body. I once followed the young master to the Bailing Mansion. There were people in the Yu clan who were injured by this palm technique of Chu Xiu. I can't be wrong." Meng Yuanlong and Bai Qinhu looked at each other. Although they did not pay much attention to the Longhu leaderboard, they had heard people mention this name before. It was still fresh in their memories. Moreover, during the fight today, it seemed that Chu Xiu did not appear. If this was the case, then the martial artist who suddenly appeared and led the trouble to the Heavenly Sin Branch leader should be Chu Xiu in disguise. Moreover, the impression that Chu Xiu had given people was that he was extremely daring. This person dared to snatch food from Nie Dongliu's mouth when he did not have any backing. Later on, he even destroyed the entire Yu clan by himself. Although Chu Xiu's journey had been relatively smooth and he had accomplished what he wanted to do, it was clear that his aggressive and risky way of doing things had attracted a lot of attention. Combined with Chu Xiu's daring and crazy character, it was not strange that he dared to plot against his own boss. Meng Yuanlong said in a deep voice, "Go back and issue an announcement. Send people to track this Chu Xiu." The first time Nie Donglu chased after Chu Xiu, because it was only a personal grudge between Nie Donglu and Chu Xiu, Nie Donglu did not use the power of the Morgue village. He only used his own power. This time, Chu Xiu took away the blood jade exquisite jade in front of the Morgue manor and killed the people from the Morgue manor. This matter was definitely not over. Bai Qinhu also nodded. Speaking of which, he should be the most depressed one. He had spent so much effort to get the blood jade, exquisite jade, and wanted to use this opportunity to spread the name of the northern fluttering snow city. He did not expect that in the end, there would be one mess after another. It happened so fast that he could not keep track of it. No matter what, there had to be an explanation for this matter. Just as the Morgue village and the northern fluttering snow city were discussing how to pursue and kill Chu Xiu, the Sky Sin branch leader also said coldly to the Ghost Hand King beside him, "From today onwards, Chu Xiu is no longer a member of the Sky Sin branch. Put down your tasks temporarily and pursue Chu Xiu with all your might. If he is alive, I want to see him. If he is dead, I want to see his corpse." The Ghost Hand King and the others were all stunned. They did not understand the situation just now. Previously, when Chu Xiu did not follow the plan and suddenly appeared, they thought that this was a task that the Sky Sin branch leader gave to Chu Xiu alone. After all, from the beginning, their tasks were different. But now, the Sky Sin branch leader actually wanted them to pursue and kill Chu Xiu. What was going on? Just as the Ghost Hand King was about to ask, he raised his head and saw the Sky Sin branch leader's sinister gaze. He immediately swallowed the words he wanted to say. At this time, it was very unwise to offend the Sky Sin branch leader. It was better to keep a low profile. At this time, after Chu Xiu left the Fang clan, he immediately went to Old Man Huang's place to retrieve the Cultivation Jade Scroll that he had been repairing. He had schemed against the Sky Sin branch leader once. He could no longer stay in the Blue Dragon Society. Moreover, previously, Chu Xiu had offended many people in the northern Yen. Whether directly or indirectly, the number of people he had offended was simply too many to count. After joining the Blue Dragon Society, Chu Xiu had gained a backer. Only then did Nie Donglu and the others give up on pursuing him. Now that Chu Xiu had betrayed the Blue Dragon Society, there was almost no need to think about what Nie Donglu and the others who had offended Chu Xiu in the past would do. Moreover, this time, Chu Xiu had snatched food from the tiger's mouth and obtained the blood jade exquisite. Obviously, the Morgue Manor and the drifting snow city of the far north would not let this matter rest. Therefore, this time, it was useless for Chu Xiu to hide. It was best for him to temporarily leave the northern Yen and lie low for a while. Although it was a bit difficult, with the blood jade exquisite, it was worth it. This was a treasure that could even move the heart of an existence like the Sky Sin branch leader. Along the way, Old Man Huang arrived at Old Man Huang's place. This time, Old Man Huang did not set up any traps. However, at this time, Chu Xiu's face was still disguised. Old Man Huang was slightly startled and said, "May I ask who are you looking for?" Chu Xiu said in a deep voice, "It's me." Old Man Huang suddenly realized something and said, "Ah, so it's official Chu. How did you become like this?" Chu Xiu said indifferently, "I was just preparing to carry out a mission." "Have you finished repairing the Cultivation Jade Scroll?" Old Man Huang immediately took out a box and said, "I finished repairing it 2 days ago. Official Chu can check it." Chu Xiu took out the Cultivation Jade Scroll and looked at it. His spiritual energy entered it and he could indeed read it, but Chu Xiu did not read it right now. Reading the information within the Cultivation Transmission Jade Slip had a relatively large impact on a cultivator's psyche. Although this impact would disappear after a short period of time, Chu Xiu still did not know what the outside world had become. He needed to ensure that his psyche was at its peak at all times. Throwing Old Man Huang a piece of purple gold, Chu Xiu suddenly said, "That's right, do you have anything to defend against the miasma in the West Chu forest?" Old Man Huang nodded and said, "Of course I do. Official Chu is going to carry out a mission in West Chu." Chu Xiu said in a deep voice, "Don't talk nonsense. If you have it, then quickly take it out." Old Man Huang's neck shrank back and he immediately took out a few pieces of jade from the room and said, "These pieces of jade have simple runes drawn on them that can block out a certain amount of miasma. They were all drawn by this old man before his cultivation was crippled. Each piece of jade can last around a month in the miasma. Chu Xiu threw Old Man Huang a piece of purple gold and said, "I want all of these things." Old Man Huang took the purple gold and was instantly filled with joy. These jade pieces with simple runes were not anything precious. This official Chu was truly generous. "That's right, do you know how to change your appearance?" "There is a problem with my appearance, I want to change it," Chu Xiu suddenly said. Old Man Huang was a bit embarrassed. "I used to be an array master and changing my appearance belongs to the lower 9 paths. I have only touched it, but I have never learned it. However, if official Chu needs it, I can only add a beard or some simple scars on your face. If you look carefully, you will be able to see that it is similar to your previous face." Chu Xiu directly waved his hand and said, "Do as you see fit, as long as it is different from your current appearance." Old Man Huang nodded. Since he had money, naturally he would do whatever Chu Xiu said. After adjusting his appearance at Old Man Huang's place, Chu Xiu immediately left. However, he did not go in the direction of West Chu, rather he went in the direction of Eastern Qi and Wei County. Chapter 128. Chu Xiu was now sure that the people from the morgue, the northern fluttering snow city, and the Blue Dragon Society were all looking for him. Chu Xiu wasn't sure if wind-sweeping buildings Lu Yu would leak the news that he was looking for Old Huang. Therefore, he decided to set up a smokescreen here in advance. In fact, Chu Xiu's guess was right. Before the next day, the morgue and the northern fluttering snow city had joined hands to put out a bounty for Chu Xiu. Anyone who could provide any information about Chu Xiu would receive a bounty from the morgue and the northern fluttering snow city. Everyone was still confused. This blood demon, Chu Xiu, was the most famous assassin in the Blue Dragon Society's Heavenly Sin branch. He was ranked on the Longhu list. The morgue and the northern fluttering snow city were so brazenly putting out a bounty for Chu Xiu. How could the Heavenly Sin branch just sit back and do nothing? Afterwards, everyone heard that the Heavenly Sin branch wasn't just sitting back and doing nothing. Instead, they were already searching for Chu Xiu's whereabouts. The Heavenly Sin branch leader even left a message, "Dead or alive." As soon as this sentence came out, everyone immediately understood what the Heavenly Sin branch leader meant. At the same time, they shook their heads inwardly. This Chu Xiu was really bold. Not only did he offend the morgue and the northern fluttering snow city, but he also betrayed the Blue Dragon Society. However, the only thing that was strange was the Blue Dragon Society's attitude. Normally, if an assassin of the Blue Dragon Society betrayed the Blue Dragon Society, the branch leader would personally report to the headquarters and report the reason. Finally, after the traitor's name was removed, the branch leader would order all the assassins of the Blue Dragon Society to hunt down the traitor, leaving no place for the traitor. However, the Heavenly Sin branch leader didn't seem to have reported Chu Xiu's whereabouts to the Blue Dragon Society headquarters. He only sent the Heavenly Sin branch's people to search for Chu Xiu. This was quite strange. Actually, the reason was very simple. After all, it was Division Leader Heavenly Sin who had taken the initiative to scheme against Chu Xiu. Although the Azure Dragon Society's headquarters wouldn't punish a dignified division leader like him for something like that, as well as an expert in the realm of the unity of heaven and man, taking the initiative to scheme against a subordinate wasn't a good thing to say. He still wanted to return to the headquarters, and such a matter that would affect his reputation in the Azure Dragon Society was something that couldn't be known to the headquarters. Also, snatching the blood jade crystal this time wasn't in line with the rules of the Blue Dragon Society. The Blue Dragon Society was just an assassin organization. If you wanted to use the power of the Blue Dragon Society to do other things, it was fine. However, you had to report to the headquarters, and you had to get the headquarters' approval before you could do it. The process was quite troublesome. Most of the Blue Dragon Society branch leaders were like local tyrants. Of course, they didn't like the feeling of being restricted. Therefore, if they acted on their own, as long as it wasn't a big matter, they would basically never report to the headquarters. This kind of thing was an unspoken rule of the Blue Dragon Society. If you didn't say it, others wouldn't care. However, if Sky Crime Division leader reported this to the headquarters, then the headquarters would know that he acted on his own, and he would inevitably be reprimanded and punished. Right now, the three clans were chasing after Chu Xiu together. The momentum was already extremely shocking. At this time, in the Southern Swallow Divine Martial Sect, Yan Tingting received the news from the Divine Martial Sect's disciple. Her eyes were red, and they revealed endless hatred and killing intent. Although Yan Tingting was unruly and willful in the past, she was still lively. However, now, her figure was thin, and she looked depressed. When the Yu clan was annihilated and Yu Luchuan died in the hands of Chu Xiu, Yan Tingting couldn't wait to kill Chu Xiu to avenge her beloved. However, because of the special nature of the Divine Martial Sect, Yan Huainan didn't allow her to cause trouble for Chu Xiu. Although Yan Tingting was the eldest daughter of the Divine Martial Sect, without Yan Huainan's orders, who would dare to help her? Therefore, even if Yan Tingting wanted to take revenge, she didn't have the power. She cried all day long, but she always paid attention to the news about Chu Xiu. Seeing that Chu Xiu was ranked on the Longhu leaderboard after annihilating the Yu clan and had made a name for himself in the Eastern Yan martial world, she couldn't wait to kill Chu Xiu right now. However, it was a pity that she didn't have the power. Now that Chu Xiu was wanted by the Righteous Manor and the Northern Fluttering Snow City, and he was expelled from the Blue Dragon Society, Yan Tingting immediately saw an opportunity. Holding the news, Yan Tingting directly knocked on the door of Yan Huainan's secret room where he was in seclusion. Everyone in the Divine Martial Sect knew that disturbing the sect leader's seclusion was a very serious matter. Even the elders of the Divine Martial Sect were afraid to see Yan Huainan's gloomy face. Yan Tingting was the only exception. The sect leader of the Divine Martial Sect, Yan Huainan, was a middle-aged man with a shocking aura. The lines on his face looked as if they had been chiseled by a knife and chiseled by an axe. People who looked at him would feel awe. Yan Huainan had single-handedly developed the Divine Martial Sect from an ordinary small sect into one of the 7 sects and 8 schools. He was ranked 37th on the Windcloud leaderboard. Whether it was in the Jianghu or in the sect, Yan Huainan was definitely an extremely powerful and ambitious person. However, no matter how powerful Yan Huainan was, he couldn't do so in front of his own daughter. Seeing Yan Tingting like this, he couldn't help but ask helplessly, "Tingting, what's wrong now?" Yan Tingting threw the news in her hand to Yan Huainan and said expressionlessly, "Previously, you were worried about the Blue Dragon Society and didn't want to hunt down Chu Xiu. Now that Chu Xiu has betrayed the Blue Dragon Society, you should be able to make your move, right?" Yan Huainan took the news and read it. A strange look immediately appeared in his eyes. To be honest, Yan Huainan didn't have any bad feelings toward Chu Xiu from the very beginning. He was even somewhat grateful to Chu Xiu. Yu Luchuan looked like a good-for-nothing. Apart from his good looks, there was nothing good about him. In the eyes of an ambitious person like Yan Huainan, he was basically a piece of trash. Unfortunately, there were so many young talents in the northern Yan land, but his daughter didn't like any of them. She didn't even like such an outstanding person like Nye Donglu. What else could he do? If it weren't for the fact that he was afraid that his daughter would hate him for the rest of her life if he killed Yu Luchuan, Yan Huainan would have made his move long ago. Now that Chu Xiu had helped him, although Yan Tingting had been depressed for a long time, Yan Huainan believed that time could wash away everything. Sooner or later, his daughter would forget about that pretty boy. However, Yan Huainan didn't expect that his daughter would still remember that pretty boy. Chu Xiu had already caused such a big commotion. Seeing the news in the news, Yan Huainan even admired Chu Xiu a little. In the Jianghu, one had to either endure or be ruthless. Yan Huainan wasn't the kind of person who would endure humiliation. On the contrary, he was ruthless and decisive. That was why he had led the Divine Force sect to fight for dozens of years and become one of the 7 sects and 8 factions. Chu Xiu had dared to snatch things from the loyalty-gathering village and the drifting snow city in the far north, and he had even dared to plot against his superior. In Yan Huainan's eyes, this was already ruthless and decisive enough. If this man could survive this ordeal, he would definitely become someone great in the future. Of course, the prerequisite was that the other party had to be able to survive this ordeal. Throughout history, there had been many young talents in the Jianghu, and there were some who were more astonishing than Chu Xiu. However, there were even more who died prematurely. Geniuses who could survive were called outstanding people. Those who died prematurely were just dead people. Seeing that Yan Huainan didn't speak for a long time, Yan Tingting couldn't help but say anxiously, "Father, do you agree to go after Chu Xiu or not?" Yan Huainan patted Yan Tingting's head affectionately and said, "Kill him." "Of course I'll kill him. Don't worry. I'll send someone to inform them to go after Chu Xiu in the south of the Yan River." Hearing Yan Huainan's words, Yan Tingting left, feeling satisfied. After Yan Tingting left, a warrior in his 30s walked out of nowhere and asked in confusion, "Master, are we really going to go after Chu Xiu in the south of the Yan River? But our Divine Force sect doesn't even know where Chu Xiu is." Yan Huainan turned around and snorted coldly. "Go after him, my foot. If you have the time, why don't you use it to cultivate? I said it to make Tingting happy, and you took it seriously. Spread the news and send some restless disciples down the mountain to take a stroll. Just put on a show." The disciple nodded in understanding. This was Yan Huainan's way of doing things. Although Yan Huainan had indeed doted on Yan Tingting all these years, he had never let her cause any big trouble. Yan Huainan had always put the interests of the Divine Force sect as the top priority. At this time, in the outside world, as the Divine Force sect released the news, the people of Jianghu were shocked to discover that there were actually 4 of the major forces in the Jianghu that were listed in the Jianghu Song of the Land of Northern Yan that were chasing after Chu Xiu. It was actually not a big deal to be chased by 4 great forces at the same time. After all, in the history of the Jianghu, there were some fierce and powerful demons who could even be hunted down by the whole Jianghu, but they were still alive and well. But the problem was, what was Chu Xiu's current strength? He was only in the inner invulnerability realm, and he was a member of the new generation in the Jianghu on the Longhu list. A few years ago, in West Chu, Tong Kaitai, the rising star of the evil path, killed a direct descendant of the Zhang family of the celestial master mansion of Mount Longhu and ate it. His method was extremely bloody and cruel, and the celestial master mansion regarded it as a provocation. They even sent several experts in the oneness of heaven and men realm to hunt him down. Now, Chu Xiu's influence was even greater than Tong Kaitai's. Tong Kaitai had provoked 1, but Chu Xiu had provoked 4. At this time, in an inconspicuous little tavern in Mount Tai County, Lu Yu was holding a small wine pot. Many low-level Jianghu people came up to him one by one to report some things. He noted down those he felt were valuable and gave them some rewards. The information from the wind-sweeping tower did not come for nothing. For an hemophilia like Lu Yu, apart from specifically investigating one thing when he had a mission, most of the time, he was passively collecting information. Especially for these low-level Jianghu people, an insignificant thing in their eyes could be a big news in the eyes of an hemophilia like Lu Yu. These low-level Jianghu people were the informants that Lu Yu kept. Although most of the information was useless, there were a lot of informants, and he could always get some valuable information from them. At this moment, Bai Qinhu walked into the tavern with the martial artists of the northern fluttering snow city with a gloomy face, heading straight for Lu Yu. Chapter 129. As a Jianghu news agent, the most important basic skill was to have good eyesight. It didn't matter if you were an expert or a fledgling Jianghu newcomer. As long as you had a bit of fame, as a Jianghu news agent, you would be able to recognize the other party. Lu Yu's heart skipped a beat when he saw Bai Qinhu. He seemed to know why Bai Qinhu was looking for him. Lu Yu quickly put down the wine pot and trotted over. "Nice to meet you, Lord 13. A cold light flashed in Bai Qinhu's eyes. "Do you know me?" Lu Yu quickly said, "Who doesn't know you, Lord 13? It's good that you know me. As an anemophilia, you should know why I'm looking for you. I heard that you had a deal with Chu Xiu. I want to know if Chu Xiu came to see you, what information you exchanged, and where he appeared in the end." Cold sweat immediately flowed down Lu Yu's forehead. He couldn't hide the deal between him and Chu Xiu from others. After all, there were so many martial artists watching when he met Chu Xiu. However, there were some things that he really could not say. It was not because he was afraid of Chu Xiu, but because the wind-sweeping brothel had its own rules. The Jianghu wind-sweeping brothel also had its own rules as a Jianghu wind-sweeping brothel. If he said it, his reputation would be ruined, and he would never be able to be a Jianghu wind-sweeping brothel again. Therefore, Lu Yu had to bite the bullet and said, "Lord 13, please don't make things difficult for me. You know the rules of wind-sweeping tower. I can't reveal the information of the client's deal." Bai Qinhu sneered. "You're just a little wind agent who spreads gossip. How dare you talk to me about rules? You're courting death. You know me. There are some things that I don't want to say twice. I'll ask you again. Are you going to tell me or not?" Lu Yu looked like he was about to cry. "Lord 13, if I tell you, I'll break the rules of the wind agent industry. It's not that I don't want to tell you, but I really can't." Bai Qinhu snorted and said, "You won't give up until you see the coffin." As he spoke, he unsheathed the long saber that seemed to be burning with raging flames. Sensing the scorching aura from the saber's edge, Lu Yu was so frightened that he closed his eyes. That was a 5th revolution precious weapon, the Wings of Flame. It was said that Bai Qinhu had accidentally found it in an extinct volcano in the extreme north. It was made from a piece of strange metal that had fire patterns on it. It had its own firepower, and a scabbard made from cold iron was needed to prevent the firepower from leaking. Any kind of true qi that was poured into the Wings of Flame would become an extremely powerful fiery qi. With Lu Yu's strength, Bai Qinhu only needed one slash to turn him into ashes. The identity of an anemophilia was Lu Yu's rice bowl, but if he lost his life, he wouldn't even have the right to eat anymore. In the face of the true threat of death, Lu Yu could no longer hold on. He was just about to reveal all the information about Chu Xiu. However, at that moment, a hand landed on Bai Qinhu's flame-wing saber. A gust of cold true energy suddenly erupted, completely freezing the flame-wing saber. The scarlet color of the saber was dyed with a layer of ice blue. Bai Qinhu's expression changed, and he quickly retreated with the saber in hand. He looked at the person in front of him in horror and said, "Qi Yuanli. It's you." The person who attacked Bai Qinhu just now was dressed like a rich man, and he had a very lazy temperament. He was the vice leader of the wind-sweeping tower in the northern Yen, the three-eyed god Qi Yuanli. The martial artists of the wind-sweeping tower had a very low presence in the northern Yen. After all, they were just a wind organization, and they didn't make a name for themselves with martial arts. For example, Qi Yuanli had been leading the northern Yen for so many years, but he hadn't even fought once. But Qi Yuanli's attack just now made Bai Qinhu feel a great deal of pressure. The pure and powerful true Qi had even reached the point where it could easily suppress him. Qi Yuanli was probably only one step away from the third stage of the spirit condensation state. At that moment, Lu Yu was on the brink of death. He took a few deep breaths and bowed to Qi Yuanli. "Thank you for saving me, leader." Qi Yuanli shook his head helplessly and said, "How many times have I told you? Vice leader, vice leader. Don't always mix things up. But you did a good job. The wind-sweeping tower has its own rules, and an hemophilia naturally has its own rules as well. You did nothing wrong. Qi Yuanli looked at Bai Qinhu and said faintly, 13th Lord, I heard what you said before. The wind-sweeping tower doesn't spread gossip, but the news of the Jianghu. The client took money to buy information from wind-sweeping tower, but in the end, we took advantage of the client's trust and sold his whereabouts. Wind-sweeping tower would never do something like that. The northern fluttering snow city is indeed powerful, but don't expect us to break our own rules and ruin our reputation. Bai Qinhu had wanted to use force before, and he didn't think that a small anemophilia was a big deal to him. But now, Qi Yuanli's strength really made Bai Qinhu unable to see through it. He snorted coldly and said, the wind-sweeping tower should know what Chu Xiu has done. We must find him at the northern fluttering snow city. Just treat it as me spending money to buy information. Tell me about the transaction between you and Chu Xiu and the latest news about him. Qi Yuanli shook his head and said, any transaction between the wind-sweeping tower and the client will not be leaked. If you want to find Chu Xiu, you can pay. The wind-sweeping tower will send out a large number of agents to help you find Chu Xiu's whereabouts. You should know that we are absolutely professional in this area. Hearing Qi Yuanli say this, Bai Qinhu also felt a slight headache. You have ready-made information in your hands, but you refuse to sell it. You still want to send people to search blindly. Isn't this taking off your pants to fart? Qi Yuanli shook his head and said, rules are rules. No matter how troublesome it is, we have to act according to the rules. Bai Qinhu snorted coldly. With Qi Yuanli here, he probably wouldn't be able to get any information today. However, at this moment, he suddenly looked around at the low-level martial artists who came to report information to Lu Yu. Bai Qinhu directly took out a piece of purple gold and said, do you all know where this kid went with an assassin from the Blue Dragon Society recently? Whoever can provide the information will get this piece of purple gold. Looking at the purple gold, the eyes of the martial artists present immediately lit up. One of them immediately said, Sir, I once saw Lu Yu follow an assassin from the Blue Dragon Society to a rundown array master in Daoist County. My house is nearby. I really saw it. Oh, when was that? Bai Qinhu immediately asked. It was 3 months ago. Hearing this, Bai Qinhu immediately frowned. What was the use of 3 months ago? He wanted to know where Chu Xiu was now. What about recently? Didn't Chu Xiu come here? The martial artist said awkwardly, I dare not lie to you, sir. I haven't been home recently, so I naturally don't know anything. However, Chu Xiu seems to have left something at Old Man Huang's place. Old Man Huang is a rundown array master. His cultivation has been crippled, so he can't set up any more arrays. He can barely even repair some low-level arrays. However, ever since Chu Xiu went there once, he seems to have money. He often buys all kinds of array repair materials in town. He is very generous. Previously, Old Man Huang would go to the tavern to eat, but now, he pays people to deliver the materials to his house. He seems to be busy with something and doesn't even have time to go out to eat. Therefore, I suspect that Chu Xiu left something at Old Man Huang's place for him to repair. At the side, Lu Yu looked helpless. This wasn't what he wanted to say, but it was what others said. These informants were low-level people in the pugilistic world who could get information as long as they were paid. They weren't people from Wind-Sweeping Tower. Of course, it wasn't breaking the rules for them to say this. Furthermore, Lu Yu took a good look at this martial artist. He was very inconspicuous, but his observation skills were very good. He was very much in line with Wind-Sweeping Tower's requirements. Bai Qinhu immediately pulled the martial artist over and said, Bring me to Old Man Huang's place now. If there are any gains, don't worry. The purple gold is yours. You can even want cultivation techniques, status, or even join the drifting snow city in the extreme north. The martial artist's eyes lit up when he heard this. He immediately brought Bai Qinhu and the rest to Old Man Huang's place. At this moment, Old Man Huang was very satisfied. Chu Xiu was very generous. He had more than 10 taels of purple gold in his hands. Old Man Huang was a Khanate realm array master at his peak. Not to mention 10 taels of purple gold, he could set up some arrays for some small sects or small aristocratic families for at least 100 taels of purple gold. However, things were different now. It could be said that he didn't make a profit for 3 years, but when he did, he could eat for 3 years. At this moment, Bai Qinhu directly broke the door with his men. Old Man Huang was about to scold him, but he saw that the little tricks he set up at the door didn't even get close to Bai Qinhu. They were directly repelled by his protective aura. This made him immediately swallow back the words he was about to say. He was also a knowledgeable person. Although his cultivation was now crippled, he was sure that the expert in front of him was definitely an expert above the physical invulnerability realm. The martial artist who brought Bai Qinhu here said, "Old Man Huang, this is the 13th master of the drifting snow city in the extreme north. 13th master wants to ask you something. If you dare to hide anything, you know the consequences." Old Man Huang was shocked when he heard this. The drifting snow city in the extreme north was a colossus. Not to mention the current him, even when he was at his peak, he could only look up to it. This old man greets the 13th master. Bai Qinhu casually waved his hand and said coldly, "Blue Dragon Society's assassin, Blood Demon, Chu Xiu has been here before? When was the last time you saw him?" Old Man Huang only hesitated for a moment before saying directly, "Yes, he has been here. I even saw him just 2 days ago." As he said this, Old Man Huang directly told Bai Qinhu all the news he had heard about Chu Xiu. He wasn't Lu Yu, who had to worry about the rules of the anemophilia and the wind-sweeping building. He was just a half-crippled array master. Facing a powerful existence like the drifting snow city in the extreme north, what else could he do other than to tell the truth? Chapter 130. The things that Old Man Huang told him made Bai Qinhu's eyes light up. He originally just wanted to determine the approximate location of Chu Xiu's last appearance so that the floating snow city's martial artists could gather together and search for him. He never thought that they would find the place Chu Xiu wanted to go. Since this Chu Xiu had specially prepared a jade formation to resist the miasma, then he should be preparing to enter Chu from the forest between the northern Yan and west Chu. This way, as long as they intercepted him at the border of the northern Yan and west Chu in advance, it would be enough. Moreover, on Chu Xiu's side, Old Man Huang had slightly adjusted his face. Bai Qinhu immediately had Old Man Huang draw the face that he had adjusted for Chu Xiu. With this portrait, he sent people to the northern Yan and west Chu border as fast as possible to kill Chu Xiu. Chu Xiu had originally laid a smoke bomb at Old Man Huang's place just in case, but he never thought that the effect would be this good. The floating snow city directly set their sights on West Chu. When Chu Xiu escaped to the Wei County border, the floating snow city still had nothing at the West Chu border. In an inn on the West Chu border, Meng Yuanlong from the Righteous Manor came with some people and said with a frown, "Is there a problem with your information? Is Chu Xiu really planning to escape to West Chu? They had been searching here for many days. In such a big place, it was normal that they couldn't find Chu Xiu, but they didn't even find a trace. Wasn't this Chu Xiu's hiding skill a bit too good?" Bai Qinhu said with a gloomy face, "There's definitely no problem. I sent people to threaten Old Man Huang and I personally used the Ice Soul Divine Eyes to test him. Old Man Huang didn't lie and he doesn't have the guts to lie." Meng Yuanlong said, "Then why haven't we found a trace of Chu Xiu until now?" Bai Qinhu was at a loss for words, but he still snorted coldly and said, "Who knows what means or secret arts Chu Xiu used? Back then, Tong Kaitai, the Heart Hunter, provoked thousands of experts from Mount Longhu's celestial master abode to hunt him down, but didn't he escape in the end? Meng Yuanlong couldn't be bothered to talk nonsense with him. The two couldn't be compared at all. The West Chu side didn't have much, but it had the most undeveloped primitive forests. Normal martial artists would easily get lost if they entered, and they would even be injured by the miasma or poison. If a martial artist entered, not to mention over 1,000 people, even if there were over 10,000 people, they wouldn't be able to find him. But this was the northern Yen. Whether it was the main road or the small road, there were people everywhere. Unless Chu Xiu could become invisible, even if they couldn't find him, they would still be able to find some clues. At this time, a martial artist suddenly walked in and whispered in Meng Yuanlong's ear, "My lord, someone found traces of Chu Xiu at the border of the northern Yen and Wei County," and Chu Xiu did not disguise himself, he just simply covered his face. Bai Qinhu's eyes widened when he heard this. Meng Yuanlong turned to look at Bai Qinhu and sneered, "Bai Shisan, you were played. That old man Huang didn't lie to you, but the one who lied to you was Chu Xiu. It was a trap from the beginning, but you didn't see it." Bai Qinhu's face turned green and white. Being able to find traces of old man Huang was purely a coincidence. The wind-sweeping buildings people were not willing to say anything about Chu Xiu. If it wasn't for someone accidentally seeing Chu Xiu go to old man Huang's place, he wouldn't have been able to find this place. It was because of this that Bai Qinhu never thought that Chu Xiu would set up a trap in this place and lead them to West Chu. In the end, he went to the Wei County and Eastern Qi. But he didn't want to lose face in front of Meng Yuanlong. Bai Qinhu gave a cold snort and said, "Don't talk about me, you aren't any better. When I said that Chu Xiu was coming to West Chu, didn't you also not react? You followed me here." Meng Yuanlong softly said, "I'm too lazy to talk nonsense with you. If we don't act now, Chu Xiu will really disappear without a trace." In fact, it was useless for Meng Yuanlong and Bai Qinhu to act now. Among the powers that were chasing after Chu Xiu, the Azure Dragon Society had too few members, the Gate of Divine Might was just putting on an act, and the Drifts Now City in the far north didn't have many powers in the East Yen region. Only the Mortuary Manor contributed the most. In the end, the Righteous Manor's people were led to the West Chu border. This allowed Chu Xiu to escape very easily this time. There was almost no resistance as he escaped from the northern Yen region and entered the Shangmang Mountain. Standing on the border between the northern Yen and Shangmang Mountain, Meng Yuanlong had a dark expression as he asked one of his subordinates, "Where are the traces of Chu Xiu?" That disciple carefully said, "The last traces of Chu Xiu were found on this border. It has already been 2 days, so Chu Xiu should have already escaped into the depths of the Shangmang Mountain." Seeing that Meng Yuanlong did not speak, that disciple cautiously asked, "Lord, should we still chase after him?" The Shangmang Mountain was so big, even if they threw the entire Righteous Manor into the Shangmang Mountain, the chances of finding Chu Xiu would be extremely slim. Meng Yuanlong also felt conflicted. If they chased after him, the Shangmang Mountain was so big and filled with dense forests. If Chu Xiu randomly hid in a corner, how would they know where Chu Xiu was? It was almost a waste of effort. But if they did not chase after him, the outside world would definitely say that the Righteous Manor and the northern floating snow city were played by a small inner gang martial artist. Not to mention anything else, it would definitely be embarrassing. Moreover, since they had already given Chu Xiu time to escape, this period of time should be enough for Chu Xiu to refine the Blood Jade Crystal Dragon. Even if they found Chu Xiu, they would not be able to get the Blood Jade Crystal Dragon. At most, they could only kill Chu Xiu to vent their anger, which was not very meaningful to them. However, at this moment, a voice suddenly rang out, "2 Northern Yen sects working together, and now you can't even find one person? You actually want to give up halfway? What a joke." Heavenly Sin Branch Leader walked over from afar with his hands clasped behind his back. Because he was wearing a mask, no one could see his expression clearly. But everyone could hear the sarcasm in his tone. Bai Qinhu's eyes flashed with anger. Heavenly Sin Branch Leader. You still dare to show up? If it wasn't for you, there would not be so many *T incidents. Heavenly Sin Branch Leader said indifferently, treasures belong to those who have the ability to obtain them. You allowed your northern fluttering snow city to take it, but not me? Forget it, I'm not here to quarrel with you today. A treasure like the blood jade crystal dragon, you and I can fight for it, but not that traitor Chu Xiu. You don't want to find Chu Xiu, but I won't give up. Bai Qinhu sneered, by the time you find him, the blood jade crystal dragon will have already been refined. Moreover, Shangmang Mountain is so big, you won't be able to find him. Heavenly Sin Branch Leader took out a box and said, this box contains Chu Xiu's hair. I collected it from Chu Xiu's previous residence. I gave it to the wind-sweeping pavilion's divination masters and asked them to use it as a medium to calculate Chu Xiu's approximate location. Although it won't be very accurate, at least it will give us a direction. It won't be easy to completely refine a treasure like the blood jade crystal dragon. Even you and I will need a month to refine it. Chu Xiu will probably need 2 months or even more. As long as we can find Chu Xiu's location within 2 months, even if we can't catch him, we can force him out and not let him have time to refine the blood jade crystal dragon. If you agree, then the 3 of us can temporarily cooperate and pay to look for divination masters at wind-sweeping pavilion. After all, the price of a divination master is more expensive than hiring a formation master. Bai Qinhu thought for a moment and snorted coldly, I'll pay, but you guys go. I'll wait here for news. The northern fluttering snow city didn't have a good relationship with wind-sweeping pavilion. Previously, Qi Yuanli even tried to stop him, causing him to lose face. Bai Qinhu didn't want to have any dealings with wind-sweeping pavilion anymore. Beside him, Meng Yuanlong also nodded in agreement. Just as the 3 parties were preparing to work together to hunt down Chu Xiu had already escaped into the depths of Shangmang Mountain. He found a random cave and hid there. This time, Chu Xiu escaped very easily. It was even easier than when he was wanted by Nie Donglu and the others in the Linzhong Commandery. Not only was it because Chu Xiu led the fluttering snow city and the morale-gathering village to the West Chu border, but it was also because there weren't many small sects that came to hunt him down. Or it could be said that those small sects and families didn't dare to participate in this kind of thing. Last time, when Chu Xiu was being hunted down, he was just a Xiantian warrior. He was unknown, or it could be said that he was only a little famous among the younger generation. That was why those small sects and families dared to follow the orders of the morale-gathering village to hunt him down. But now, Chu Xiu had stepped into the inner aura realm and was ranked 18th on the Longhu leaderboard. He even slaughtered the Yu clan alone and led the assassins of the Blue Dragon Society to exterminate the Yao clan in front of the people of Jianghu. He showed his powerful achievements and ruthless methods that could kill a physical aura warrior. Facing such an existence, those small sects and families didn't dare to hunt down Chu Xiu even if they received orders from the morale-gathering village. That was simply courting death. In the east of Yan dynasty, a force with a physical aura warrior was already considered as a powerful sect or family. But even with their strength, they didn't dare to provoke Chu Xiu. So, even though those demons who provoked the wrath of Jianghu looked like people wanted to kill them, in fact, there were many people who shouted slogans. Those who actually dared to take action were as rare as phoenix feathers and qilin horns. Of course, the current Chu Xiu hadn't reached the level of those great demons. But his power was enough to scare off most of the people who tried to gain personal gains. In the cave, Chu Xiu wasn't in a hurry to refine the blood jade exquisite treasure. This kind of treasure needed a certain amount of time to refine. So he decided to first take a look at the Buddhist martial arts in the skill transmission jade slip. You're tuning in to the Unparalleled SwordWill YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.